Good evening. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you to the school board meeting this Tuesday, September 20th, 2022. The public is encouraged and welcome to address the school board at the hearing of citizens about an agenda item during the meeting or in general comments at the end. Our board clerk, Kathy Tompkins, has collected all cards that we'll be accepting. We do not accept any more cards after the meeting begins. We will call you forward at the appropriate time. And now would you all please stand with me, if you're able, to a flag salute by the Booker High School JROTC under the Sergeant First Class John Ledbetter. And we will have this pledge by Carter Gish, our student rep from Booker. He will lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Booker High. This evening, I'm happy to say that we're back to our art highlights, and tonight we're going to feature the Riverview High School Kilty Marching Band under the direction of Tamara Lewis. Tamara is a new band director as of, I think this is her second year. She came from Sarasota Middle, and she's doing an outstanding job. We have our principal from Riverview sitting in the audience, Erin Del Castillo. Welcome, Erin. Please enjoy the performance featuring the Highland Dancers with bagpipes and drummers. Take it away. Wow, that was wonderful. I know that some of you may or may not know this, but the Kilty Band has earned 62 superior ratings in a row from the Florida Bandmaster Association's District Marching Music Performance Assessment since 1958. And I think we all enjoyed that very much, so let's have another round of applause. Our student representative tonight is Carter Gish from Booker High School. Carter is proudly sitting to my left in a purple shirt, which are the colors of Booker. Welcome, Carter. I've just given you a acknowledgement and a certificate of appreciation, and I want to thank you for being with us tonight. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yep, thank you for allowing me for this opportunity. I'm Carter Gish. I'm a 12th grade student at Booker High School. I'm a College Forever student, Brilliant Pathways ambassador, along with being in the ACE program. For the past 3 years, I've been on the school tennis team, playing #1 singles and doubles. And after high school, I'm planning to study mechanical engineering.
Would you please tell us about Character Strong, the trait for September, and how it affects you?
Yeah, so the character trait for September was respect, and it affects me. It's the basic principle in building relationships with anybody when I'm on campus at school, with my teachers, with students, anybody you meet along the way at school, walking in the hallway. Respect's pretty much your basic foundation for anything you need to be doing and interacting and furthering your relationships moving forward.
Well, again, thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. The first presentation, special presentation tonight, is for the Florida Commission on the Status of Women's Essay Contest winner. Would Steve Cantees, Director of Secondary Education, please come forward to the podium to begin the presentation?
So, good evening, School Board Goodwin, Chair Goodwin, School Board members, Dr. Asplin, and our student representative, Carter Gish. Thank you for being here. Tonight, we want to highlight an extraordinary accomplishment of one of our students. Sponsored by the Florida Commission on the Status of Women, this past spring, there was a Florida Women's History Essay Contest. The prompt was to write about a Florida woman inventor or a STEM professional. Amvi Patel was selected as the 6th grade winner of the contest last spring. We also want to thank and acknowledge Earth, Space, Science, and STEM teacher at Sarasota Middle School, Irene Moksha, for encouraging Amvi. Also, we want to thank the leadership of Sarasota Middle School Principal Jennifer Nzeza for creating such a positive learning environment. They're both here today. Let's give them a round of applause. And we are fortunate to have with us this evening one of the commissioners from the Florida Commission on the Status of Women, also a member of the Florida House of Representatives. Please welcome Representative Jenna Parsons Malika to recognize our student Amvi Patel. Come on.
Madam Chair, Board, Superintendent, and team, I'm Jenna Parsons Malika. I have the pleasure to serve Lee County in the Florida House, but I also have the pleasure to serve the state on our Florida Commission on the Status of Women. And it is my honor to have come up from Lee County today to join you all to recognize this extraordinary young woman, Amvi Patel. Every year, the Florida Commission on the Status of Women puts forth an essay contest for our middle school students to celebrate women's history. As a side note, we also just started a video contest for high schoolers as well. And I want to thank all of the students who submitted essays and videos, as well as the parents and the teachers and the friends who encouraged our young ones to celebrate women's history and celebrate those who have inspired them. Now, at this point, it is my true honor to celebrate and recognize the first place winner in the 6th grade category, your own Amvi Patel, and hear again the amazing essay that she wrote.
Brittany Sims, System Engineering and Integration Expert. A young girl curled up on her couch watches a news report on the return of NASA's space shuttle. Amazed, she tells her mom about how NASA sent people into space. The next day at school, she eagerly told her teachers and friends about how she wanted to work for NASA as an engineer and keep people safe on missions. None of them believed that she, a girl from a small town in New Jersey suburbs, could ever work for something as big as NASA, but she was undaunted by their skepticism. In fact, she was even more motivated than ever to prove them wrong. This is how Brittany Sims was first inspired to become NASA's system engineering expert. Brittany Sims inspires me because she came from a small town in New Jersey. It seemed impossible that she could get to where she is now. She believes that the work we are doing today is an opportunity to inspire the little girl who's sitting on the couch watching television that she can do something great. In other words, she believes that anyone can achieve their dreams if they work hard enough. As a junior in college, she applied to NASA's Motivating Undergraduates in Science and Technology, or MUST program. She felt that she did important work in that program. After she got a degree at Morgan State University, she was hired full-time at NASA. Starting as a surveillance project engineer for the space shuttle, she began as system engineering and integration expert for NASA at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. I would like to meet Brittany. If I ever met her, I would ask about how she originally worked or the doubt that her teachers and friends threw at her. Even her teacher could not believe that she would ever make it as far as NASA. If teachers can't even motivate their students to do what they want in life, it can seem impossible to get where you want to be. I'd like to know and be more like her and how she used the struggle to push her forward rather than hold her back. Even though she began as a little girl watching awestruck as she first learned what NASA did, through determination and working hard, she eventually achieved her original goals.
And Madam Chair and Board, on behalf of the Florida Commission on the Status of Women, we have a certificate for Anvi, a letter from Governor DeSantis of congratulatory nature, and a $100 award.
This is just wonderful. Are we getting a picture?
Yep, we're going to get a picture right up front here.
Great.
Old saying is, you can't see me, I can't see you. Right? So make sure you're not blind.
The next presentation will highlight Hispanic Heritage Month. Would Dr. Moore please approach the podium to begin the presentation?
Good evening, Madam Chair, esteemed board members, Mr. Gish. Looking forward to the great things you're going to be doing. Dr. Asplin. As you know, National Hispanic Heritage Month is September 15th through October 15th. The Florida Department of Education honors this month with the theme Celebrating the Achievement of Hispanic Floridians. Sarasota County Schools is honored to showcase the achievements of one of our outstanding teachers, Loridia Urquiza, otherwise known as Lori, our high school teacher of the year from Booker High School, who has an incredible story. We've highlighted her on video, which you'll see shortly. In the meantime, Ms. Urquiza has organized an incredible series of programs, including Hispanic music on Fridays and the state's essay contest. Ms. Urquiza is an excellent example of our district's framework for equity, belonging, and dignity. As an organization, we must always ensure that we continue to focus on shaping inclusive environments intentionally designed to foster a sense of belonging, honoring the dignity of each and every person. And now, we will watch the video.
You ready? All right, in 3, 2.
My story as a Hispanic immigrant is not unique. Millions of Hispanics who contribute every day to the greatness and prosperity of this country arrived here in much the same way I did. As I reflect on my painful decision 20 years ago to leave behind everything I knew and I loved, I still feel profound gratitude for the opportunity of a new beginning. My family is from a tiny town in Cuba, where my mom was a beloved school teacher. I grew up in her classroom dreaming of one day being like her. Like most immigrants, I arrived with only a few belongings. I didn't speak English, and I didn't have any family or friends. But what I did bring with me was a college degree and a strong desire to succeed. My new American neighbors and colleagues made me feel welcome and helped me adapt to my new life. Shortly thereafter, I was on the road to fulfilling my dream of becoming an educator. Many years have passed since that time. I'm a mother of 2. I have earned a master's degree. I have taught at both the high school and college levels. I have presented in English at various professional conferences. I have made memories traveling with my students abroad and have helped my fellow teachers grow as an international Cambridge teacher trainer. Many of these experiences were made possible because I made that difficult choice so many years ago. Today, Hispanics like me are making contributions not just in education, but government, science, sports, entertainment, and medicine, just like my sister. I want to celebrate them as well as the next generation. Hispanic Heritage Month is a time to be proud and a time to be grateful. And I say gracias from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, and this concludes our special presentations.
Well, that was great. That was just great. Thank you, Dr. Moore. And next up, we have the superintendent's report. Dr. Asplin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have a few items here. Just we have a couple of videos too, actually, so everyone knows. First of all, I wanted to recognize 2022 Hispanic Heritage Month, as you just heard. That is between September 15th and October 15th. And there's a wonderful opportunity for students to learn about the countless contributions that Hispanic Americans have made in our state's and our country's success. On August 25th, First Lady Casey DeSantis announced the theme for the upcoming 22-23 school year Student Art and Essay Contests and the Excellence in Education Awards. And the theme is celebrating the achievements of Hispanic, Native American, and Black Floridians. And to find out more information about that, you can go to fldoe.org/contest, fldoe.org/contest. And our schools are participating, our students are participating, but anyone can take a look at that, and you'll see the theme there and Lady DeSantis, her words. Also, it's Workforce Development Month in September. Workforce Development Month in Florida is a time to celebrate the progress made towards strengthening workforce education opportunities for Floridians. And I want to thank our very own Suncoast Technical College for the tremendous impact that they've made and they continue to have on our community. And that's Dr. DePillo. We want to thank him and what they do out there at STC. We also have, excuse me, the Sarasota County Surtax is coming up. That vote is coming up on November the 8th. Just wanted to remind everyone that that's out there. And that tax is used to invest in local infrastructure improvements such as public safety, roads, sidewalks, parks, libraries, and schools. So remember, that surtax vote is on November the 8th. Also, if you look in the forward, board members, you'll see a poster, a banner back there. It says responsibility. And what we went ahead and had 15 different character trait banners made for each school so that schools could put them around campus. This aligns with our character ed instruction, and they are traits such as responsibility, respect, honesty, citizenship, and so on. And so each of the principals will have those banners to place around their school wherever they like, and we thought we'd put one in here today. I want to thank Kelly Preddy and also Deb Jackalone for helping us out with those and creating those for us. So thank you very much. At this point in time, I'd like to show a video regarding the construction update of Booker High School and the VPA renovation.
A long time coming, we are very, very excited to have Booker High School's renovation occurring for our theater.
The overall scope of the project was we had a renovation of the existing auditorium. The buildings behind me are the new building. That's the new building 8. Now, 10 years later, we're doing the major renovations to bring it up to district standard, to VPA performing arts standard.
We're going to have industry standards to make sure that our kids are competitive, because we're going to be teaching as they are learning to perfect their skills in the area of art.
And so with that, we've got pretty much a complete gut of the interior of the building. And as you can see from the structure, part of the facade of the building being removed, we're going to tie into the existing building and add on with a new studio theater, green room, new lobby, new concession area. We're adding seating, number one. And then it's going to be balcony seating. As you can see, the steel framing is installed now, is currently installed for the balcony seating.
Our students will have an opportunity for creativity, for exposure, for awareness and problem solving, to utilize this space so they get real live connections on what it's going to be like in the real world.
For the past 20 plus years, they've been using 2 dressing rooms as classrooms. So as the students try to learn the academic curriculum of the performing arts, they were literally using the dressing rooms as classroom spaces, desks and everything, and then those rooms would double as dressing rooms for performances and sometimes throughout the day. So the great thing is that in this project, we're able to build 2 new classrooms so that those dressing rooms could truly be dressing rooms.
This program will benefit all of our students in the visual performing arts program up under the 5 different disciplines. We have dance, we have music, we have film and animation, we have theater and visual arts. Just the opening and the grand entry, when you walk in, you will know that you are at the state-of-the-art facility. Our teachers, our students are excited about the possibilities, and we cannot wait. So thank you so much. Another great construction area here in Sarasota County School System.
All right, thank you. Thank you to Mr. Dumas and the operations department and our construction area. They're doing a fantastic job, and that should be done very soon, that project, and we're really looking forward to the opening of that.
And what does very soon mean?
Mr. Dumas, what was the date?
Well, I know that last year they struggled with having to perform at various different facilities, because I went to some of the performances that, were a little bit of a challenge. But I will say to all of you, if you have not, their schedule is out this year for their performances, both music, dance, chorus, and theater. And if you get an opportunity to go to one of their plays, it's well worth it, or the whole season for that matter. It's just great.
And we are on schedule and within budget, so we're doing really well on that. So we'll get that done.
That's really good.
Then
Mrs. Brown wants to.
I just, Mr. Dumas, could you forward that video to our former board member, Caroline Zucker. I know she was very involved in getting that project going. Thank you.
Okay, also, just wanted everyone to know that on October 5th, we will have the State of the Schools, and that is actually going to be in this room like we were last year. Obviously, it only holds, this room holds maybe 100 people, and so we are going to be streaming it live. Just like we do with our board meetings. So the cable broadcast partners and the YouTube channel, they will be part of that, and it'll be the same as what we do here in the board. But again, that's on October the 5th. It'll be at 6 o'clock. And so people will be able to watch that at their home on their sofa and be able to see what's going on over the last year. So that's, again, is the State of the Schools on October the 5th at 6 o'clock. And then lastly, I wanted to show another video, but also have a couple of principals just say a couple of things. You know, we had our workshop last week. I think it was on Tuesday of last week. And our strategic plan, as you know, has 5 goals. And each month, we try to give our board members an update of each goal because we want our strategic plan to be a live document, something that doesn't just sit on the shelves. And so that's what we do every month. And this past one was goal 1, and it has to do with our academic goal. And so I'd like to just have everyone see just a little bit about what we talked about at the workshop, because I know everyone can't make those. So Mr. Renoff, our Chief Academic Officer, if you come forward and start this.
Thank you, Dr. Asplin, for the opportunity to provide an update and an overview of the Goal 1 strategies of the strategic plan as a follow-up, like you just said, to what was shared at the school board workshop last week. Before we begin, I'd like to just reiterate something that I did say for the public to hear at the workshop. The very important work of Goal 1 in the strategic plan has been intentionally designed to be implemented and monitored by our talented strategy leads, the expertise of our curriculum teams, hardwired into practice by our exceptional school-based leaders, and their deeply dedicated school-based teams. Tonight, it's an honor to provide an abbreviated presentation for the public that will showcase the great work and progress being made by the Goal 1 team, and to provide some highlights and strategies from a few of our school-based teams. First, you will hear from Goal 1, who's worked collaboratively with our amazing communications department to put together a video to provide some highlights of their progress from a performance, progress monitoring, and problem-solving lens. Immediately following the video, you'll hear from 2 of our true practitioners who exemplify the excellence that exists in and across every one of our schools. Dr. Kirk Hutchinson, principal at Venice Elementary School, and Ms. Erin Del Castillo, the proud principal at Riverview High School, will share with you some specific patterns and trends that they're seeing at their schools, but they will also provide you with a glimpse of how they use progress monitoring, strategic problem solving to support all of their students so that they're all successful, and the development of their fluid school-wide improvement plan, as well as PLC collaborative problem solving process. So without further ado, turn your attention for the video.
Within the Sarasota County School District, we are constantly working as one for the success of all. Our strategic plan, goals, and related strategies help us maintain a laser-like focus to help each and every student reach and exceed the highest of expectations, all the while achieving their full potential. The essence of Goal 1 is to personalize learning and accelerate growth for all students, which really tells a story about the individualized journey of every student from the time they enter our school system until the time they exit college, career, and life ready. In our strategic plan, Goal 1 consists of 5 strategies. Strategy 1, enhance and expand early learning and pre-kindergarten programming opportunities for our families and students. Sarasota County School District is intentionally working to strengthen partnerships within our community, gathering baseline data and streamlining processes to establish consistency in expectations. Early intervention and the support for our families is the key to helping ensure all of our future shining stars are ready for kindergarten with the foundation and fundamentals to thrive socially, emotionally, and academically.
The achievements of Strategy 1 included opening 12 new pre-K classes and hiring a pre-K director, literacy specialist, behavior specialist, and a social worker. The priorities are to support new students, families, and pre-K teams, as well as continue to build partnerships throughout the community and hardwire pre-K to kindergarten transition.
Strategy 2, maximize learning for all students through a multi-tiered system of supports. There are 3 distinct levels of support. Tier 1 instruction ensures that all students have access to essential grade level standards. Tier 2 instruction will provide additional time and responsive support to learn essential behavior and academic standards. And Tier 3 focuses on intensive remediation in universal skills. To support each of these tiers, collaborative teams utilize data-based problem solving to measure and respond to student learning.
Strategy 2 achievements included providing ELA and Math Best training to all teachers and completed Tier 1 through Tier 3 behavior resource training. The priorities consist of aligning our intervention response to support the PLC process and ensure access to essential grade level curriculum and develop standardized rubrics.
Strategy 3, implement a collaborative planning framework that ensures high levels of student learning, engaging in the professional learning communities model. This strategy is all about focusing on less what we do and more about why and how we do it. It's a never-ending process of continuous learning and collaborative problem solving with the sole intent of helping each student reach the highest levels of learning. These PLC teams consist of educators committed to working collaboratively, sharing ideas to enhance and then improving and reflecting upon their own teaching practices to establish a learning environment where the dignity of all students is honored.
Within Strategy 3, the achievements included Principal, AP, and District Spring Professional Learning, District Guiding Coalition formed, District Guiding Coalition work groups established and meeting regularly, and PLC Institute held in July for over 350 attendees. The priorities are to establish district-wide timeline for implementation, building capacity across the district and in schools, revise PLC contract language, and expand PLC certifications.
Strategy 4, provide arts and experiential learning opportunities for students that honor multiple modalities and engage all student groups. Sarasota County Schools truly believes the arts are an essential element of a well-rounded education. It's proven that experiential learning helps increase engagement and ownership of learning and achievement. The arts connects students and families to form a true partnership in the student's educational journey.
For Strategy 4, these achievements included professional learning for all arts teachers by discipline and celebrated 10 years of experiential learning via EdXplore SRQ with 100% school participation. The priorities are to personalize site visits to schools and progress monitor the implementation of programming, as well as analyze arts and experiential learning enrollment for all students.
And Strategy 5, equipping all students for life readiness through access to accelerated, specialized, college and career-focused instructional opportunities. Strategy 5 strives to provide students a deeper understanding of the numerous career options and the necessary education, training, and paths to obtain them. This can be achieved by ensuring access to advanced and specialized coursework, increased career education, focused transition planning from pre-K through high school, and work-based learning opportunities. In the end, success will be measured by the fact that each student has a well-thought-out, defined, personal plan that prepares them for their unique post-secondary journey.
Lastly, the achievements for Strategy 5 include a college, career, and life readiness program manager hired, middle school and high school career advisors chosen, high school career center services identified, and CCLR student planning portal was selected. The priorities are to define school-level career center operations and onboard new student planning portal system.
Collectively, the Goal 1 team is honored, proud, and privileged to engage in this most worthwhile and purposeful work. Through this, we can develop a culture of collective responsibility, ensuring, as a school district, we all own the success of every student in our district.
Madam Chair, school board members, Dr. Asplin, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today for Ms. Del Castillo and I to talk a little bit about how we are implementing our strategic plan in our schools. And I do want to say it's an honor for us to be able to represent our colleagues. Any one of our principals could be here today talking about the amazing work that they and their colleagues are doing in any school across this district. So I am very proud of the work that we have done at Venice Elementary over the last few years. Venice Elementary has a long tradition of being an A school and being highly successful when it comes to the education of our students. We have a phenomenal staff who truly just embraces our district vision of working as one for the success of all students. And I could not be more proud of the work that they have done over the last number of years. And this past year really brought us to the highest of heights that we have had as a school. Within the FSA time frame that has been administered, last year we had our highest scores ever. We achieved 77% of all possible points earned within that assessment, and are extremely proud of the work. We do believe very much that starts in our earliest learners, our littlest little Indians, if you will, and works all the way up to our fifth graders. So when we talk about our school grade, this is not just something that our third, fourth, and fifth grade teachers and families own. This is something that our entire school community embraces and is very proud of. And I think, when we talk about working as one for the success of all, one of the pieces that we are most proud of this last school year really is the success that we have had with our students with disabilities and our English language learners. When we look at our overall outcomes and we look at the learning gains that have taken place over the last year for our students with disabilities and our ELL students, when we look at the ELA learning gain, almost 75% in both of those student groups made a learning gain last year, which is phenomenal. When we look at mathematics learning gains, our students with disabilities, 86% of our students with disabilities made a learning gain, and 92% of our English language learners made a learning gain. And we are so incredibly proud, again, of the work, not just of our third, fourth, and fifth grade teachers. This starts all the way down when they enter into our school building. Also, so incredibly proud of the students and our staff that work in our Access Magnet classroom. So we do have a magnet classroom for students who are on an alternate curriculum. They're taking the Access standards, and they too take the FSAA assessment. And so proud to report that 100% of our students who took the FSAA assessment last year scored a 3 in ELA and science, and 71% of them scored a 3 in mathematics. And that is just an incredible testament, again, to the work that our students and our teachers are doing and our staff are doing every single day in our classroom. We have so many positive things that are happening in our campus and across our district. And again, this is just one snippet that any of our schools could share. So I think ultimately when we do talk about working as one for the success of all, and we are looking, again, specifically at our students with disabilities and our English language learners, very proud of our school that when you looked at all elementary schools across the district, Venice Elementary, our students with disabilities had the highest scores in 6 out of the 7 school grade components when you compare that across all elementary schools. And when you add in every middle and every high school within our district, we were still number 1 in 4 out of the 7 school grade components. And again, I could not be more proud of our students, of our staff, of our community for these amazing achievements. And there are some very specific pieces that we have put in place over the years that have led us to this. This is not just we decided one day we were going to do this. This has been work that we have been intentional in doing over the years. And so at Venice Elementary, we do have 100% of inclusion model. So all of our students with disabilities are fully included in our general education classrooms when we start at kindergarten and work our way all the way up through 5th grade. We are very appreciative of the Jump Start funding that we received last year because it enabled us to really participate in some intentional training and professional development and planning with our teams. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank our teams for being so incredibly open to this work of identifying what do our students need to know And how are we going to make sure that every single student is learning what those and meeting those expectations? And a huge kudos goes out to my assistant principal, Caitlin Ranlat, who really helped facilitate those professional development planning sessions. We really started with that end in mind. Where do we want to be? And then we worked our way backwards so that we could take those critical steps forward to make sure that we were reaching those goals. Our staff, they stopped at nothing to make sure that our students were being successful. They were even looking at how well students were performing and then sharing students across classes, because if we had one student who maybe was going to receive and kind of grasp that concept a little bit better from a different teacher, there was not pride involved with our teachers. They said, you know what, we're going to do whatever it takes. And so they were sharing students. And then we also really continued to refine our PBIS program, and we were extremely proud that we were one of the schools that was invited to apply for the platinum level recognition for the 2021-22 school year, which is the highest level available in terms of the recognition from USF for the PBIS program. And so when we looked towards this school year, we didn't want to just rest on our laurels and say, hey, we did a great job and we're going to stop there. We are continuing that intensive work as we are supporting the strategic plan. So when we look at really finding ways to continue to support goal 3 of our strategic plan, we are continuing our professional development and our learning and planning in that PLC model. We are continuing to use our Jumpstart funding so that we can engage in that intentional and intensive planning so that all students, when we look at our Tier 1 instruction, our Tier 2, and our Tier 3 instruction, that all students are reaching those goals that we are setting for them. We are extremely grateful to our board and our superintendent for giving us the ability to add positions to our staff for this upcoming school year. So we took our pick a position and we added a reading intervention teacher, which is going to be integral as we look at supporting strategy 2 through the MTSS process and how we are identifying the needs of our kids. And so that reading interventionist is working primarily with our kindergarten and first graders so that we are able to intervene early, we're able to intervene often, and hope that we are able to close those achievement gaps, because we have seen through our own success and our own data what that looks like when we intervene early, we're doing it intentionally, we're doing it often, and we look at the success that our students have had over the last few years. We also added an additional ESE teacher this year. Again, our focus has always been on working as one for the success of all, and we were really happy to be able to do that. And then ultimately, we are extremely proud to be the only non-Title I school that has implemented one of our new early learning programs. So one of our pre-K programs, we are piloting that from a kind of a non-Title I perspective this year. That we believe is going to make a huge impact as we are able to identify our students when they are 4 years old. All of these students live in our attendance zone, so they'll all be kindergartners at Venice Elementary School next year. We have an incredible pre-K team who is working diligently to just set our kids on the perfect path forward as they enter and begin their schooling career. So, we can't thank you enough for your ongoing support of our schools, the strategic plan, and we are looking forward to another great year of success at Venice Elementary. And we know that it doesn't just end when we leave elementary school. Our secondary team is doing a phenomenal job of supporting our students all the way until they are leaving our school system. And Ms. Del Castillo is going to share a little bit about that now.
Thank you, Dr. Hutchinson. Hold on, Dr. Hutchinson. I apologize. Oh, you did it that way. Okay. All right. Thanks. All right. Madam Chair, School Board, Dr. Asplund, thank you so much for having us tonight. As Dr. Hutchinson said, we are so honored to be chosen tonight to talk about our schools and to share a little bit about what we do with our students and our staff every day. And when I will say a little bit about Riverview, as you saw our Kilty Band perform, we are very unique. We're the largest school, comprehensive high school in Sarasota County right now at 2607 and counting. I have been very grateful to be part of the Riverview community for double digits now. I'm in 10 years, 5 years as an AP, and now my 5th year as principal. And it takes a village. It truly takes a village. I'm up here today representing Riverview, but all of our community stakeholders, our parents, our staff, our teachers, our volunteers, our mentors, this is how we got here today. And we are very, very grateful for Ram Nation. So in 2021, we had 615 points as a total grade. And in 2022, we jumped to 661, which is a huge jump for us. We had 3 categories where we had double digits. We saw double digits in 12% in ELA, lowest 25%. 15% of points in math, low as 25%, and 18% in math gains, which was phenomenal. We have IB opportunities for all of our students. We are an IB World School. And with that, we have our IBDP program. I use a lot of acronyms, so I'm going to apologize. It's the IB Diploma Program. It's our most rigorous program that we offer. Our students that complete the diploma program will actually get Fulbright Futures as well as 33 credits to a public Florida institution. So they get a really great opportunity to start academically post-high school. We also have the IBCP program, which is our career program, in which they have 8 different pathways in which they know that they want to be an engineer. They can really focus on that. And we had a student last year that was accepted into Dartmouth and had a 6-figure scholarship into Dartmouth. So again, a wonderful program for our students. We did do something a little differently, and we started this about 4 years ago with a lot of training, and it shows you the power of PLCs, and that's IB Lit and Lang for All. It is an IB course that is accessible to all of our students, and all of our seniors will sit for that test. We have a standard level and a higher level, and we've trained all our teachers. We started with 9th graders. We brought in trainers, we brought in coaches. They really do work together. They look at common assessments, they look at the data, and we have seen this program grow and grow. Last year when we looked at failures, because every year we added a group to make sure that we were training appropriately, last year was the first year I had the least amount of junior failures. So the engagement is there, and it really is something where it allows the students to really delve into those critical thinking skills. And if you look at English, I was an English major, so I'm a little partial, but it is the crux of every language and every core content, because you're reading, you're listening, you're writing, you're speaking. And so giving them those critical thinking skills impact all the core classes. Of course, you saw our Kilty. You saw, like, I think a 1/12 of my Kilty band, if I'm correct. And they were spectacular, but 62 years of superior ratings, over 300 students participate. So it's not just about the academics, it is really about the whole child. And that is really what we try to address at Riverview to engage all of our students. Our Stars to Starfish program, we're one of 3 high schools with a planetarium. And then we also have an aquadome, which is a partnership with Moat Marine. It's a mini Moat Marine. My daughter's actually in the audience. She would tell you her favorite part about this aquadome is Bob the fish, correct? Yes. He's a unicorn fish, and he actually lets you pet his nose. He lives with the sharks. They don't eat him. But they breed seahorses, clownfish, snook. They do mangroves. They do coral. Our coral actually spawned. If you know what that means, it actually grew over the weekend. So there's a lot of great things. And the best thing about this program, it's been around for so long. If you ask all the student interns that run it, you say, raise your hand if you saw this when you were little. Almost half of them will raise their hand. And we're creating marine biologists with this program from the time they're little. My own daughter, I think, went through it the first time when she was 5. So, I mean, it's something where they really look forward to it. And then, of course, we have scholar athletes. We do great athletically, but 21 out of 23 of our varsity teams had an unweighted GPO collectively with 3.0 or higher, which is pretty amazing with how big we are and what our district class is. We also had, of course, our boys cross-country team that had the 3.8 unweighted GPA last year that were state academic champions. Oh, boy. Okay. Promise I can use a PowerPoint. So some things we've done a little differently this year. With Dr. Asplin's support, we went down to South Fort Myers, and there's a couple programs that came out of that we are now implementing for our students. JFG is Jobs for Florida Graduates. It's a grant. It comes out of Jobs for America's graduates from a bigger national level. And JFG, it is a grant position. The teacher has gotten extensive training. She will tell you she's had extensive training in the best of ways. But basically, she works with a group of students, and half of her students have to be ESC or 504. We work with Voc Rehab, and we give them all the skills needed to be successful post-high school, or even when they're in high school wanting a job or a career. So they get interview skills, resume writing. They have businesses come in. They're part of the National Career Association. All of these pieces are part of it. And why JFG is so incredibly successful is 95% of their post-grads, 3 years post-grad, are still in their careers or their jobs. And the reason for that is because our treasure hunter gets to follow them for a year past graduation and keep data points on them. And if they're not doing well, they follow up. They get them a job. They get them an interview. They take them to the interview. But they make sure they follow up to make sure that they're successful. The Construction Technology Program Academy, again, with Dr. Asplin, we got paired with GCBX, which is Gulf Coast Builders Exchange, and we were able to renovate an entire art room to where it's now a construction lab. We have all sorts of, I was talking about today, all sorts of saws in there, so we started with safety. So safety is first. We're at OSHA, and we're using NCCER curriculum, where our students can actually get certificates in construction, and they will get basics in plumbing, electrical, framing, and of course, anything core from there. And again, we are pairing with businesses from GCBX. They're coming in, they're talking to students, they're going out on job sites. And one of my success stories, I had a student that came to me in construction, happened to mention he wanted to be a welder. We got him an interview last Tuesday. He got the job. He saw me yesterday, and he got his boots, and he is super excited. So we're actually going to change his schedule, and he's going to try and graduate in December and go to MTC for welding. So these are programs that are not only engaging our students, but it's changing their lives, which we really appreciate. Expansion of IBCP, my construction program is not just for one group of students, it's for everybody. Anyone who's interested in construction can be part of it, and so what we want to do expand is that if a student wants to go to a 4-year construction program, UF and FGCU have them right now, they can walk out the door with a degree and get an offer for $100,000 at 22 years old. This is a very viable community in which students can really be successful, and we want to be able to promote those to everybody. Pathway to college is wonderful, but there's many different pathways to success, and we want to expose our students to those. PLCs, again, I mentioned the IB for All, and again, it's about teachers working together no matter what their core content is, talking about assessment, talking about data, how can we reteach so we can get those students early. Snacks for Strats is just what we do for, if you come and get a snack, we'll give you a strategy is kind of what it means. But we try to work together. Last year was Best Standards, this year it's Reading and Content area. And then I am the queen of acronyms, so this is all different things, and some of them you might know. Boot camps for ACT, SAT, FSA, EOC. I'll probably have FAST at some point. Boot camps, but we really work with those, and that was our Jumpstart monies of really making sure our kids could make the best scores possible to, again, give them the most opportunities. Project 10, we look at all of our kids visually and see how they're doing across the board, whether it's attendance, behavior, credits, test scores. Apex Saturdays, Apex is our credit retrieval program. All of our students, they have very different lives. They have very different challenges they're juggling. So we open the school on Saturdays, we bring them in, we do it at night, we do it on Sundays, whatever gets them there to get their credits done, we want to help them. Ramp It Up tutoring is something the RHS Foundation has funded for decades. It's math tutoring. It's Tuesdays and Thursdays for free after school. Any kid can attend, any student can attend, with the proper paperwork. And that is something that we've always offered. After school tutoring with supports, virtual and in person last year, especially with Jumpstart money, helped that COVID gap start to close. And that was something that was really important, is having that flexible time for students. We also were very targeted with push-in support to certain classrooms, certain teachers with certain kids. We were a PBIS model school because, again, it's not just about academics, it's about everything to make sure that your school community is healthy and that you are growing. We also had a high satisfaction from our parent survey, and then we have other different groups that we really try to encourage all different kinds of kids to get involved. Discovery Academy, we look at students that might need motivation, behavior, academics, attendance. We celebrate those, get them a mentor so that mentor can help build them up and help them make good choices. We have the freshman transition, which all of our high schools have, in which those freshmen come in. We try to get them acclimated to make sure that year's a little bit easier. Step Up program is our freshman transition just in the summer. Again, getting those students on our campus. They've even found in colleges, they bring them in a week early, they are much more successful in their classes. And then Pirate is not a program. He is a wonderfully joyful therapy dog that visits us on Fridays, and the kids love him, the staff love him, and he is just a joy, and he has brought a lot of joy to our campus. Apex celebrations, we take those Apex students and we make sure if they meet their goals, we celebrate them with a really nice luncheon every quarter. We want to continue to motivate them. So of course that leads to Staff of the Month. Our students nominate staff. Pirate wins every month, just putting that out there. He gets bones. He doesn't get anything from my treat cart because I don't think it's good for him. And then we have Student of the Month every other month. We did Respect. I'm going to be giving out 115 certificates in the cafeteria tomorrow. And gum is the #1 thing off my treat cart, so I'll make sure I have a lot of Orbit tomorrow. And then the other piece is collective efficacy. For our pickup position, we add an instructional facilitator full-time to kind of coordinate all these pieces because it's a lot, which gave us an additional counselor. And of course, we have a grad coach that's monitoring Project 10. We work with First Step. We have 2 First Step advisors as well as a full-time mental health counselor. We did something a little different last year. We did a focus group for ESE collaboration with staff, families, and administration. We're continuing to work on that and work through those processes because, again, communication has to go both ways, and we want to make sure that we are reaching the whole child for all of our students, especially students with disabilities. And then last but not least, I was very strategic in where I placed my staff this year. I think they thought I played, is it Boggle, where you shake it and all the numbers go everywhere? But I didn't. I was very strategic. The big piece here is I want collaboration for our staff to be very targeted, in which if I'm by Dr. Hutchinson and we both teach English, we don't have to wait till Wednesday at 10 a.m. during our planning period to talk about English or talk about students that we have concerns about. They can walk outside their door, they can do it at lunch, they can do it while they're walking in their classrooms. So I was very strategic in where I placed everyone to make sure that everyone felt supported going into this year. So I'm pretty sure I'm over my 5 minutes, so I apologize. But I just want to say I really appreciate the support from the board. I want to say I really appreciate the support from Dr. Asplin, Mr. Cantis. It would not have been possible when we came back from remote learning as well as concurrent teaching and learning to get where Dr. Hutchinson and I are and our peers without all your support and hearing our concerns and listening to the community, because every child matters. And our goal, his goal, is to hopefully get them to me at some point, or maybe Venice High, either one. It's okay. It's okay. Sometimes they come my way. But either way, but to make sure that at the end of it, they have a plan. And if the plan A doesn't work, they have a plan B. And that's what we want for all of our students. So thank you very much.
Mrs. Brown.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Asplin, for bringing that to the board table. We had a more in-depth version at our workshop, but our workshops aren't attended. You know, when you started, we ended up with COVID, school shut down, and then we had to come up with all new ways of teaching the next year. And we also wanted to have a strategic plan. And you came up with a strategic plan that involved our schools and gave our principals some part of that plan for their schools, so we can see that they've been able to take it and take ownership with the principals and their staff. We were able to give them, I didn't do it, you did it. The Jumpstart dollars, what we called it, from the COVID dollars, use that how you need it in your school to make things better. And the pick a position that we funded from the COVID dollars we got from the federal government, you decide how you want that to go. I would like with you what we were talking about is maybe take those positions and move them into general revenue so that we can continue them, but I guess we're going to have some negotiations to do that. But what you have done is laid out a roadmap for success for all of our students, and hey, we're also going to have success for our teachers and our administrators because they're judged on how well they do too. But to hear that Dr. Hutchinson, you're bringing them in before you have to, you know, the pre-K, to help them get that jump start on education. And, you know, Ms. Del Castillo, you're working on them after they leave you to make sure that they're successful. This is a strategic plan that we have not had before. The previous superintendent raised scores, I think 65 points in his time, and we're not there yet, but we're working on it. But we now have a plan that we can see, we can understand, our staff understands, but I think what we were missing is the public didn't understand it. So I hope that we will, or you will, continue to bring things like this to the board table, so that, you know, we're not going back and forth, and we did that at the workshop, but so that the public can hear this, so that our teachers can hear this, because this is the roadmap for success, and we are succeeding. They are succeeding, and I really, really applaud you, Dr. Asplin, and I applaud all of our staff. Thank you, thank you, thank you for putting in this effort and buying into this, because we are working for the success of all. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Wound up. Yeah. I just want to say thank you to all of you. It is noted, your success, your achievement by me and by others, and I thank you for making that possible for so many students. The things in our strategic plan that were laid out in February, all had a component from our budget. So everything that we have done in terms of the things that we mentioned under today's meeting, all has an impact on the budget. And we know exactly where those dollars went by goal and by items within that. So I think that makes it so wonderful. I don't remember that ever happening before with another school. In looking at strategic planning, yeah, we have been behind the 8 ball on that for a number of years. We didn't really have a functional, living, growing being in a strategic plan, but now we have it, and we have the components of a budget assigned to it as well. So thank you very much. And of course, it's almost time for your budget. I mean, almost time for your evaluation. So this is a really good time to say thank you.
So thank you very much, and I want to thank you all for being here today and sharing with us what's happening at your schools. It is truly a team effort. It's everybody, right? It's our school administrators, our teachers, everyone, all of our employees who work for our school system, and everybody working together. It's our students and it's our parents, our community, everybody, our business leaders. So I know that we can do that. We can go through our strategic plan. We have a good trajectory. We have a good plan for the next 5 years, and I think if we stay on that, we're going to be in great shape. So thank you to all. Like I said, it's definitely a team effort. It's not me. So thank you all very much. Appreciate it. And then the last item I have is, just so you know, in the consent agenda, there was a question about I was getting questions about items number 16 through 22. That is in our grants section. And those items are grants that we're receiving from the federal government and from the state. And so there are not attachments with contracts as far as what we're purchasing, because these are simply grants that we are accepting and approving so that we can use those dollars in those particular topic areas to purchase items which will come to future board meetings to be approved on individually. And that takes care of the superintendent's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Asplin. And now we come up to the hearing of citizens, my favorite part of the board meeting. At any rate, tonight we have 4 members of our audience who'd like to speak on some items on the agenda. And at this point, I'll be calling those folks forward because Tom Edwards, our vice chair, is not here this evening. He normally does that. I want to say, please address the school board and do not make comments which are irrelevant to the business of the school board or which are abusive, threatening, defamatory, obscene, profane, or otherwise of a disorderly nature. As such, it is not a forum for attacking individual employees or school board members. Any such complaints should be submitted in writing to the superintendent or the board member. It is unlawful to disrupt or interfere with a school board meeting, and any such action may result in a misdemeanor or offense of the 2nd degree. At the discretion of the presiding officer pursuant to Florida Statute 1001.372, which for purposes of public comment tonight is me, any individual who interferes with the expeditious or orderly process of this meeting will be removed. This is a business meeting of the school board, and the public expects to be conducted in an orderly, efficient, effective, and dignified manner. We humbly ask that you act as you were taught as a child. Be respectful of others and treat them as you would want to be treated. Finally, as public servants elected by the people of this county, we will listen with open minds and open hearts to your comments. We expect your First Amendment right to freedom of speech, and as a citizen of this great country, you must understand that your rights are not absolute. So you are free to speak your mind, but you cannot defame an individual or yell fire in a crowded theater. With rights comes responsibilities, and so we begin. First up tonight is Michelle Posey.
Thank you. Michelle Posey, District 3.
Today I wanted to speak on agenda items 16 through 20, the ESSER funds. The U.S. DOE states in regards to the robust spending initiative of $1.2 billion, federal dollars, into our public system, saying that the department requires that all states and school districts engage with a diverse range of community members as they developed their plans for spending ARP ESSER funds. This is to include students, parents, families, and stakeholders. Mind you that another federal agency referred to some of us as domestic terrorists for passionately wanting to get involved in decision-making of our children's education. So I don't get warm and fuzzy feelings when a federal agency claims to care what stakeholders and families think. But that aside, these ESSER funds through the American Rescue Plan is the largest influx of federal dollars into our public school education system in the history of public school education. This is why elections matter. Regardless of how I feel about the events that got us here, ESSER funds totaling over $5 million are on today's agenda. A new board majority will be entrusted with spending these dollars to the betterment of our classrooms and are tasked with restraint to not get intoxicated with the gift coming from the federal government, because there's always strings attached. These funds are meant to be spent mostly on recovery from COVID-19. I thought it was odd that the other night on 60 Minutes, our president declared it's over in reference to the pandemic. And I'm supposed to forget the illegal mask mandate that covered our children's faces during the most crucial time in child development. I wonder how traumatic that was for them, along with canceled proms, athletes who couldn't perform on the field, foregoing personal graduation ceremonies. I wonder if events like these contributed to the last bullet point the DOE suggests these funds should be used for, addressing student mental health needs. The wave of a president's magical wand and he declares it's over, but it's not over for me. I see a federal government who caused these issues with reckless mandates and forced closings around the nations, and now thinks federal funds make it all better. I see local politicians like Mr. Edwards, who played politics in the freest state in the nation, who undoubtedly saw the sweeping consequences of that in the August election. To our new incoming board members, we trust you and we look forward to—
Thank you. Next up, Melissa Bikondi.
Dr. Asplin, school board members. The key theme for tonight, as usual, is the transparency of the Sarasota County School Board, or lack thereof. I am glad, however, that agenda items 16 through 20 were pulled, because I was going to ask you to please pull those until you can show the public the exact contracts and where this money will go. And I hope that this $6 million plus in supplemental resources will have agenda items attached, or will have contracts attached when you spend this money. I was hoping to know the details. Item number 1, I am shocked that our well-paid equity czar, Dr. Harriet Moore, would allow such a non-equitable policy as making parents come in person to the school board meeting. Working parents and moms with disabled or young children cannot come to the school board meeting in person, and they need to be able to submit their public comment through email. I know Ms. Goodwin doesn't want any public input, but you need to allow people to email in their public comments and also include them in the minutes. Again, lack of transparency. Item number 9, last week, a woke teacher at Laurel Nokomis School hung a poster on her door advertising QueerCon, an LGBTQ grooming event for kids ages 12 through 19, promoting pansexuality and the transgender lifestyle, to be held at a Sarasota charter school, in which her own Tom Edwards, school board member, was present. This poster was hanging at a school with kids in grades K through 3. This violates the state law, the Parental Bill of Rights, and the Surgeon General's transgender guidelines. It is reported that the administration took that poster down, but what happened to the teacher? Apparently, she still has a job despite having another complaint a year ago over inappropriate material hanging in her classroom. Is Sarasota County Schools becoming like the Catholic Church in covering up sex offenders? This woke teacher needs fired. Maybe we need to ask Mr. Edwards if she is working on the inside with him. Thank you.
Lisa Shore, no clapping.
My name is Lisa Shore, and I'm the mother of a child in the district, and I represent Support Our Schools. I'm here to comment on Agenda Item 31, approval of the Greater Florida Consortium on School Board's 2023 legislative program. I believe that the board should approve this program. This consortium represents 11 school boards which team together for the purpose of lobbying the state government. 42% of the K-12 children in Florida attend their schools. The consortium has been actively involved in lobbying against high-stakes testing. Some of the goals and priorities of the consortium include to increase the average per-student funding to ensure that Florida is currently in the top half of the state. Sadly, Florida currently ranks 45th in per-student funding. ensure that legislation is not in conflict with the constitutional and home rule authority of school boards to operate, control, and supervise all public schools within their school districts. Recently, we've seen an example of legislative overreach when the authority of the local school boards to decide on charter school applications was usurped and handed over to a committee formed by the Department of Education, which is to be composed of charter school operators and those with charter school experience. The local school boards are in the best position to decide the needs of their local districts, as the board did recently when they unanimously turned down the application of For-Profit Charter Schools USA. Provide for an optional summer program for all students. What a great idea to not only help close the achievement gap, but also to provide activities for students and childcare for working parents using existing buildings which otherwise sit empty during the summer months. Provide adequate funding to significantly increase mid-career teacher and support staff salaries. Florida is currently number 48 in teacher salaries. And lastly, but not least, enhance state investment in voluntary pre-K full-day programs and permit funding for school day and after-school wraparound services.
Thank you. Teresa DeWitt.
Again, I want to clarify, Dr. Asplund, I think you didn't pull these items, you just want to let us know that your intent is still that we want to go in that direction with those particular items. We just don't have specifics in terms of programs, correct?
That is correct. Thank
Okay.
you for clarifying that.
Okay, well, that's okay. It's
Just wanted to explain what it
Okay.
was.
If you guys can kind of bear with me, because I'd already gotten this presentation together. Okay, so I want to discuss an overall pattern of no transparency. On the number 17, $2.5 million for supplemental programming. There was no contract attached. I'm going to not say that moving forward. So, but my questions are: what program, what company, what tutoring service? Number 18, it was over $607,000. What program? Where do stakeholders go to see this program? That is, if it's not listed. Number 19, over $990,000 for intensive after-school. Questions moving forward: what evidence-based program is staff looking at? Which company? Who are their partners? What data-driven analysis are you obtaining, and with what assessment tools? On number 20, $650,000 of instructional materials. What major tools do you want to use? More instructional materials. You approved a $100,000 instructional material contract last year with the option to renew 2 years with $100,000 each year. So I wanted to know if that was a new instructional contract or if that's the same one. Okay, so that's one question. So, excuse me, with that, what new standards are you referring to? And are parents going to be invited to this adoption process? I know these are grant dollars, but federal grant dollars are taxpayers' money. Along with federal strings attached that I believe we have sent a strong message at the ballot box. We are requiring more transparency. This is unacceptable the way it was presented, and your team needs to go back to the drawing board. And I'll quit there because I know that you're gonna go back with that. Do you want to add anything to that?
I just want to make sure everyone's clear that these 16 through 22 are grants that have come to us. It's money that has come to us. We have not looked at what we're going to purchase yet. So when we get to that point, then obviously at that point we'll be transparent in what we're going to purchase or what we think we're going to purchase with these dollars. Right now it's just to approve the fact that we're receiving the dollars as a grant.
Okay, and the $100,000 program, is that from the previous contract, or is that a new one?
I'm not sure what you're speaking of there, so maybe we could talk after.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
That is the number 20, by the way.
Thank you. And that ends our hearing of citizens for this portion of the meeting. And now we have the consent agenda. Are there any revisions to the consent agenda, Dr. Asplund? Sorry.
Yes, Madam Chair. Minutes were added to item number 8, approval of the minutes. An addendum was added to item number 9, the instructional classified personnel report. Originally, the agenda number 24, approval to purchase materials and/or services per the attached list from vendors under contract with a federal, state, or municipal government or cooperative with a lead agency that utilized a competitive process, was moved to new business and is now item number 33, and that is the Schoology item. Item number 32 has been moved to a future agenda, and that is approval for Carr, Riggs, and Ingram CRI to provide operational auditing services in 2 high-risk areas.
Thank you. May I have a motion, please? Bridget Ziegler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know a motion hasn't been made yet. Dr. Aspen, I just want from a clarity standpoint, because I appreciate you highlighting the grants from 16 to 22. And I'm happy to make a motion, but when it comes to those items, I understand we don't have there's just been, and I recognize why, there's been a lot more emphasis and focus on money and grant money and where it's coming from and what the strings are attached, and that there's no such thing as free, and nothing's free. And when it comes to any of these, I know you mentioned we haven't identified the vendor. How, for the knowledge for us and the public, how did we come up with how do we quantify the amount of each one in each subset, especially as we talk about ESSER, even in a former meeting, trying to be more transparent where we are, how much funding we have currently in the future. But if I look at these grants, there's multiple here that have very specific funding amounts aligned to them. Mm-hmm. How did we come to that if we don't have a vendor or an idea of what we would be utilizing?
Those grants, and if I could ask Tara to come up, Conradi, I appreciate you helping us out. She's our grant specialist.
Thank you.
And but I believe as she comes up, these, especially the ESSER dollars, these are dollars that I believe the state has these dollars, and then they distribute them according to the number of students you have in your district. So for instance, if it was $613,000, that's what Sarasota would be given if we applied and received that particular grant. But Tara, go ahead and let us know if I'm correct on that.
Certainly, absolutely.
Say it again. Okay. Sorry. So you are correct. That is actually the state the allocation that was provided to us. Thank you. Okay. So that is actually the allocation that is provided to us. So the dollar amount for each of those is provided as part of the request for application from the state that we receive. So it's not something that we calculate here, it's actually provided to us. So that dollar amount is set for all of the LEAs that are eligible to participate.
So just to clarify, it's a pre-calculation based on number of students or what have you. It is not something that we're requesting in specificity.
No, ma'am. It's part of the request for allocation. So the allocation amount is set for each school district.
And then we have specified categorical areas of which we're requesting that money for those grants?
That is correct.
And then once we decide, what's that timeline? So for the sake of, because I know there's a lot of interest in this, what would that look like and when that would be presented to us?
Sure. So just for the sake of conversation, the supplemental programming, the 2 applications are due November 4th. And the intensive after school and weekend activities is due on October 7th. And so we're working with our stakeholders here to collectively identify our district priorities. And then those purchases for goods and services as appropriate would then come to the school board as contracts or requests for instructional materials.
Okay. Thank you, especially because that was on a whim, so I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Second from Karen Rose.
Yes. Yes.
And we are going to take a voice vote because Mr. Edwards is on Zoom. Mr. Edwards, can you hear me?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed
Aye.
signify by saying nay. The motion passes unanimously. Next up, we have new business.
I move the approval of the Greater Florida Consortium of School Board Legislative Program as presented.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Mrs. Ziegler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know that this has come up many, many years since I have been on this board. And it is frustrating, as I was talking to the superintendent, I guess I'll start with a question. When on this year did we vote as a board to be a part of this organization?
We did not vote this year to be a part of this organization. We have been a part of this organization for many years, and we continued to be a part of this organization.
Thank you very much for that clarification. I think that is with the challenges that, I would even pivot over to the general counsel is, I understand this is an organization that separates from the statute where individual board members can decide to be a part of it, and because they're not a 501c3, we've had this discussion over time, and I don't really particularly want to be laborious on it, but for it to come up in front of the board again when we've never taken an action item to actually each year take a proactive and action of saying, yes, in fact, we will continue our membership as a board to make that decision. Even when we have new board members on the time, I don't believe it's ever been brought to the attention of Mrs. Rose when she joined, and even Mr. Edwards. I understand, to me, that puts us in a predicament of how am I even able to vote on an agenda on a legislative platform that I don't think we've taken a affirmative action or vote to knowingly be a participant in.
We have taken and made note of this organization when we decided what committees or what things that we were going to be involved in earlier this year. So we did talk about this. We did look at this. It has been announced. I was president of this organization a couple years ago. I have continued to be involved. Shirley has been involved, and Tom is now the representative that attended the most recent meeting. Mrs. Brown, do you have some comments?
Yes. This association, we were given the information. I don't have it all in front of me, but I believe we represent almost half of the students and more than half of the funding that comes from the districts. And these districts are the ones that are more the property rich, and some of us contribute more dollars than we get back. In fact, Sarasota, I think, is the third highest, the one that, if you could see when we received our budget, there was, I believe, $10 million deducted out of state funding of the FEFP, and another $19 million was deducted for the scholarship funds. That $29 million was dollars that the state didn't give us, so they really shorted us on the categoricals that we have. So it's our local dollars that are paying for some of those. And what this organization tries to do is keep those things in mind and to make sure that the legislature doesn't do other things that would hurt these districts more, because the funding issues, it's very complicated how the FEFP is put together up in Tallahassee. And just even changing the district cost differential or do the compression dollars on our local required effort and those things, it really makes a difference on our district. And I think Manatee County recently joined, even though they aren't one of the donor districts that are on here. But it's very advantageous for us to have their lobbyist up there looking at how those budget numbers run all the time, so that we are not penalized, perhaps more than we already are, by being a property-rich district, more so than the other districts. And we line up at number 3 right now. Yes. And the state dollars that have been coming to the district have been dropping as the local dollars have been going up. And I think we heard at the last meeting how some of the people were concerned about the dollars that we're putting in. And yeah, if the state put in their $21 million, we could have reduced our local taxes by $21 million. But, right now, the consortium is what's there helping us to make sure that the state doesn't do things that are going to hurt property-rich districts more than the balance already does.
Mr. Edwards, do you have anything to add?
Yes, I have 2 things. In the the flyer that I handed out when we did this at the workshop, I would have thought that if there was an issue about the consortium, it would have been brought up then so that it could have been discussed appropriately before it ended up on new business. But other than that, I would also say that Mrs. Rose and I arrived at the school board at the same time. And I don't recall ever having to vote that we became members of the consortium my first year, but I do recall that we all passed the consortium agenda last year. So I'm just a little confused as to why that's coming up in this conversation today. But also, if you'd like, I can repeat the successes of the 2022 session and accountability. I have that in front of me if you need me to report the successes. But there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bullets that the consortium was lobbying for on behalf of its members, and all of us at Sarasota County enjoyed those successes and hope to enjoy the ones that are before you for approval this evening.
So this has never been a secret. The consortium has never been a secret, but we are looking now at a different board, and perhaps you'll make a change to it. But right now, we're looking at this proposal with this board. We still have this board for another 2 months, and it has been noted that we have received a great deal of help with lobbying from the consortium. And I don't know that everybody on this board has worked as a team in lobbying in the past. Mrs. Ziegler.
Thank you for those lovely comments. No, to answer to Mr. Edwards, I did have this conversation with the superintendent, and merely it's just a process. Every year this comes up, and when I think of working together as a board, I think it has been an area of contention. In my mind, I think why, if I knowingly have stated year over year over year, have no interest in being a participant of this, because when I consider the shell game of the lobbyists that happen, and if you look at the return of investment that we get in comparison, I just don't see the ROI. I recognize my fellow colleagues may disagree with me there, but I also, because I haven't taken a proactive vote to be a participant, or Sarasota County to be a participant, in my mind it doesn't make logical governance sense to have to take an actionable vote on a legislative platform. But for the sake of time, I will be voting no, for the reasons that I do not believe that the Greater Florida Consortium of School Boards, I didn't take an actionable vote to be participant for Sarasota County as a board member. I believe that it's mired with a lot of things that really are not strategic, that I consider actually hurting from the lobbying aspect. And when you aggregate all of the associations and their lobbying and their priorities, they all start to meld together to the point where we have some consultants and lobbyists making a whole boatload of money, and we're not really seeing that ROI. And as a protector of Sarasota County's tax dollars, I believe our individual lobbyists could focus on those things when it comes to preserving the financial or the taxations as it pertains to Sarasota County, and that is why I will be voting no.
Well, I will say one thing before we vote, and that is that this platform and this organization is a proponent of public education, public schools, and not other forms of choice. And for that, I have been very grateful and thankful to them. Anyone else have a further comment? If not, may I have a motion, please? Do we have a motion?
We had a motion and a second.
Sorry. Shirley, did you have something?
I just wanted to comment that, again, this consortium looks at the differential between the property-rich counties and the other counties in the state, and it's more focused on dollars and how dollars will help our district or hurt our district, and how they happen in Tallahassee. And I would hope that the new board looks into and tries to get an understanding of what this association does for its members. I don't believe the costs are that much. I mean, isn't it about
$3,000.
$3,000? And I'm telling you, just changing the district cost differential by 0.1% would cost us considerably more. And it really is a dollar and cents issue. And that's what they focus on. They focus on the funding formula, and I would just hope that before you take a vote on whether you're going to continue working on this, that you get an understanding of who they are and what they do before you just turn your back on them.
I would hope that as well, but if there are no other discussions, I will go for a voice vote. Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Ziegler?
No.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mrs. Rose?
No.
And I vote yes. The motion carries 3-2 with 2 dissenting, Mrs. Rose and Mrs. Ziegler. Moving on to the next item of new business. Item number 32 has been moved to the October 4th agenda. Next up is item number 33. May I have a motion, please? Not all at once. Shall I make a motion? Shirley?
I move that we approve the attached list of contracts, anticipated purchase of the materials and services. This is for the implementation of
Schoology. Second. Did you say second time?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay. Mrs. Brown made the motion. Mr. Edwards made the second. Discussion? Mrs. Brown.
We had a presentation of this program. And it's a learning management system. We saw during COVID some of the problems that we ran into with the Blackboard system. And one of the complaints that we even have from our staff is that they've got to take their grades from here and move them over to there. So we were given a good explanation at the workshop on how they came up with this program, but there was a group of people that looked at the programs that were out there. They narrowed it down to 2, and then they worked with them. We had representatives from each of the schools and administration, and they came back and they said 85% on this Schoology was for the ease for the teacher, and then they said for the students that it was easy, and even for the parents to work on there. And the teachers said that they recommended that we migrate to this from Blackboard as soon as possible, with the overall objection to be completely transitioned by the time school starts next year. And I understand that we will be, the first year, we will be working with them, and they're not going to charge us the least fee, but we're going to be getting it set up, and so the teachers and staff can be working with it. But I think that I think we should listen to what the teachers said and what the staff said, that they need this learning management system. It will make their life easier, and so that's why I'm supporting it.
Mrs. Ziegler.
Thank you very much. Just for the record, I know I was not physically here yesterday at the last workshop, but I was able to watch this portion of it and most of the rest. And I also want to thank Mr. Binswinger for his time and answering many of my questions. I will say I'm a little plagued, and I think that I see these, and an LMS is a very big overhaul, and I know that I applaud us. No disrespect to Blackboard, but it is time for a change for sure. So I am excited to see us move to a new platform. But when you make these decisions, it's for the long term. I agree with what Mrs. Rose had brought up at the workshop, and what Mrs. Brown just mentioned here today is the emphasis on our teachers, and and staff, because they are the ones going to be dealing with the implementation and the transition. Of course, naturally, one of my questions was also about the parental side, because they are also have a significant user experience aspect. And I was wondering, Dr. Asplin or Madam Chair, if it would be acceptable that Mr. Binswanger come up, because I know
We're going to have some presentations. As soon as our questions are done, we're going to.
Oh, I don't have any questions. No, I was just going to.
They're standing over in the corner waiting to.
Okay.
Mr. Binswanger.
Thank you. I wanted just to highlight the discussion that you'd mentioned as far as the parental piece as we move forward.
Mr. Binswanger, thank you for being here tonight. I know you've had a meeting in Orlando this week, and thank you. And thank you to all the others who are here.
You're very welcome, Madam Chair, Dr. Asplin, board members, Mr. McKinley. First, please accept my apologies for my informal attire. Traffic on I-75 and I-4 did not cooperate with me making it home in time to put a tie on for you.
Hopefully it'll be better on your way back.
I'm certainly hopeful of that this evening. With that, I would like to dedicate all the time for you to hear from the teachers this evening. I genuinely want to pass along my sincere thanks and appreciation to Miss Brittany Damiano from Glen Allen Elementary, who is the first to speak tonight, and then Miss all of a sudden you get up here and you draw a blank with that, and I will never hear the end of this from my staff. Sorry, and now my apologies to Miss Heather Walsh. In my head, I had it as Heather Olson all day. Don't ask me why. And it is Heather Olson. Oh, my God. So, my apologies. With that, my age, as Miss Brown pointed out to me the other day, when I first used to present to the board, I was a lot darker in my hair color than it is now. From Woodland Middle, I do have that part right, and then Mr. Seth Gardner from Pineview, representing high school. So with that, I will attempt to have my face color turn back to normal and not as red, and pass the phone to Ms. Damiano.
It's okay. Hi, I'm here to represent elementary schools. Last year, I worked with a lot of my colleagues from all different grade levels, all different schools throughout the county, and we did some work diving into some learning management systems. And so, as you can imagine, teaching elementary school, especially the littlest of learners, to navigate a learning management system can be very difficult. And so that was exactly the undertaking that we had to take over when COVID hit. So through that process, we kind of learned, just like you said, that our current learning management system, Blackboard, is a little bit archaic. And so with that, Sarasota County is always looking for what is the best out there. And so we want to be included in that. And so through our work, we really felt like Schoology was the best, not just looking at teachers and staff, but also looking at the populations of our students and their families. And so Schoology platform really is customizable for, the techie teachers like myself, but also can be manageable for our less techie teachers. We also see it as a way that we could bring parents into the classroom and involve them more into their child's education. And I'm speaking on behalf of being a teacher and being a parent, and so I understand the importance of that. And so, just looking at learning management and what we can do to kind of bring everything together is really what the teachers would like. Instead of having everything kind of here and there, we would love to have one hub, one central location for everything, and make it easier to communicate with parents, make it easier to communicate with the rest of our staff, and be able to better serve our students in the community. So let me know if you have any questions.
Hi, I'm Heather Olson from Woodland Middle School. So we were very fortunate to be able to work with many different district employees, not just teachers, but also people from food administration, secretaries, principals. I mean, anyone that works for the district was able to come and put their input in on the LMS system and what would benefit them the best. It was really nice to see different perspectives and kind of see what was needed. Like you said, Blackboard it's been around a very long time, and I've been using it for 13 years. It has not changed much at all. Looking at over 15 different systems myself, just kind of researching into them, there are 14 others that are better than Blackboard. Schoology is definitely one that will take us into the future. We looked at many different aspects of Schoology. I looked at it as a teacher, I looked at it as a parent, and I looked at it as a student. And I felt like this platform was the easiest to navigate. It was the easiest to implement as a teacher. I was able to spend 10 minutes and get 3 units all together. And other platforms, it took me maybe an hour just to get 1 page done. So Schoology is very intuitive. It's very navigationally friendly. It is so easy to work with. And I think teachers really want something that they can do that's fast, that's easy. They want something that's going to be a time saver and not cause them more problems, more pain, more training. Schoology is definitely easy to use, easy to implement. We won't lose our work from switching from one to the other. I could just go on and on about all the benefits of switching to Schoology, but I'm going to let my next colleague go ahead and go. So thank you.
Good evening. How are we this evening? Good. Good to see all of you. My name is Seth Gardner. I'm the Director of Choirs at Pineview School. I teach 6th through 12th grade. And I just wanted to point out, when I met Joe, I had a lot more hair. And I also want to clarify, everybody at home, I don't know where the camera is, this makes me look like I have less hair. I'm just going to clarify that. I was really excited when they asked me to be a part of this study. I've used Blackboard for the last 13 years in my classroom in a variety of ways. During the pandemic, I was asked to help create some course shells for the choir directors in the district to help them get started right after we were in lockdown. A lot of teachers are just not familiar with Blackboard because it's so difficult to use. And I found, for me, as someone who is creating content, the most difficult part was trying to explain it to my colleagues and getting them to be able to copy this content. So that is where Schoology is going to change everything. It's going to make it so much easier for teachers to facilitate that. One of my colleagues, when I went back to them, I went to my staff and I emailed them and said, hey, what are your thoughts? I sent the links, they researched it. One of the feedback I got was, this is my 4th learning management system. And I don't want to have to start from scratch. The great thing with Schoology is that when they wake up, August, whatever, when we start next year, their courses will already be converted for them and they will have a starting point. They will not have to start from scratch. So that's what's really exciting. I also looked at it from a parental perspective. I had a little bit of PTSD talking about this because I was at home with my children and my wife for 1 full quarter with no other human contact except for them and Blackboard. And I had to log into my kids' Blackboard account to figure out what they had to do. And I tried logging into the parent side of it, but as you probably know, logging into the parent side of Blackboard isn't very user-friendly. Like, I mean, I can just see your face. Like, it's horrible. I'm really excited about Schoology's parent app. It integrates all of your children into one feed. You can see what assignments are due, what events are happening at their schools if it's populated, and it's going to make my life a lot easier. Right now, both my kids are at one school, but pretty soon they're going to be at 2 different schools, and I'm going to have to manage all 12 teachers. And so that's going to be really exciting. I know I'm not from Riverview, but I know people at Riverview. Riverview is a huge Teams school, and Schoology integrates Teams into its learning management system. So just because one school might favor something or another, Schoology will help them harness Teams and then take it to the next level. And I think the one thing that's going to make teachers jump for joy is what my colleague said, is we're not going to have grades in Blackboard and then spend a couple hours transferring over to our SIS gradebook. It will suck all the grades over and put them into SIS for us, which will save us a ton of time. And I just reiterate, to function in Blackboard, sometimes you had to do a rain dance to get things, moved over from one course to another, and I see heads bobbing. With this, it's going to be so easy for teachers to collaborate. There's going to be a central area where they can grab content and immediately put it into their classes. And one of the things with our small learning communities is creating common assessments so that we can better help our students learn, and it'll be a great place to keep those common assessments, and they'll be easily deployable. So if you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Seth. Anything else you'd like to add, Mr. Binswanger?
No, my goal was to introduce the teachers and then just ask if you had any other, what I'll call technical or deployment questions. I'm here, but their voices, I guess the one thing I would reiterate what I said in the board workshop is our teachers' voices and input will be the anchor to which we always go back to with this implementation or any implementation. As I was driving back today, I called my wife to check in with her, and she's like, "Why are you driving back again?" And I said, because there's nothing more important than making sure our teachers have the tools they need to reach our students. And we've been working on this too long for me not to be there, to not be able to answer a question, to lose this opportunity for our teachers.
Mrs. Brown.
I want to take this opportunity to apologize to you, Mr. Binswanger. 16 years ago, when I first came on the board, I used to get him confused with another director that we had. I won't mention his name, but he knows who he is. And I said, well, over those 16 years, I can now tell you apart. But, I know that you have impressed me over these years with your aptitude and your quality and your willingness to come down like today, but also your thumb drive Thursdays and all of that. And, I shouldn't have noticed the gray hairs as much as I should have said, Mr. Binswanger, over these 16 years, you've just enhanced your standing with me, and you look so much more distinguished now. And you can let him know now that you're the more distinguished one of the two. And I find that a very attractive quality in a person, that distinguished. So thank you. Please take that with you.
Mrs. Rose.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to state my appreciation for Mr. Binswanger and the teachers that have worked on this, and I'm very familiar with Mr. Gardner, and I know that you've all of you have put a lot into this. I do want to add a couple pieces from my perspective that I've stated previously, that I'm very familiar with learning management systems as a principal for many years, and the undertaking that it involves with our staff. And I'm also aware that Blackboard is not something that we want to continue with. I totally and completely validate that. I am not comfortable with turning this over in a week's time. I feel like you have had enormous opportunity, and I want opportunity for more staff, more teachers, and parents to have an awareness of something as big as a learning management system that's infused in everything that we do, to provide feedback and have that same familiarity. It isn't in any sense at all underestimating your stellar abilities to assess this and provide feedback. I did speak with a teacher post our last meeting at one of our schools and asked about their perception of a new learning management system, and no, it was not Pineview. I'm not going to tell you which one it was. And they had no idea we were looking at a learning management system, and that's not a negative. That is the enormous undertaking it is to involve everybody, and this is big. And so I'm not going to support something this big that involves our whole entire community and do so in 1 week. And again, that isn't underestimating the value of what you've had the opportunity to provide. So I will not be supporting this at this time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mrs. Rose. I would just say that the evaluation process actually began in January of this year, so the district has been working on this for quite a long time, and I will be supporting this. Mrs. Ziegler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you so much for driving back. And also to the colleagues and staff for your time in evaluating this. I do share Mrs. Rose's points, and I know this is something we had spoken about. I'd spoke about to Mr. Binswanger, and it came more from because I've seen other counties, unfortunately, get through an LMS transition implementation, and it was ugly. And I want to avoid those things, which I don't believe would happen here because I think we do have stellar staff. But also the awareness, and I know that when I kind of reverse engineer it, and I know that this is on the minds of everyone, certainly with Mr. Binswanger and staff, to understand the technical execution of it, that time is a ticking. If we are to look at starting the next school year and being able to, as was said, they wake up in the morning and everything's transferred over, because I think that is a time saver. However, to bring everyone in so that there's kind of an onboarding, like all of us getting together and it's being supported so they can see the value that this is. So you kind of eliminate the naysayers, which you're always going to have naysayers, as we discussed, no matter what, but let's try to reduce that as much as possible so there is more people rowing in the right direction. Instead of voting it down or what have you, Dr. Aspen and or Mr. Binswanger, is there an opportunity that we could postpone it and I could make a motion and to put it in that posture just to allow for perhaps a little bit more time, meaning like a month or something, to reach out to make sure that we're amplifying the awareness, the input, and even maybe capturing a little bit more input from, as we said, the user experience from perhaps families, even though I know many of our parents. I'm trying to see it be successful no matter what, because it is such a huge overhaul, but I understand our time is tight. One of my hopes would be if we could delay it so that we get more buy-in, so we're all rolling in, because LMS is being such a huge overhaul.
Well, if I could, on that particular note, we would be running the first year, it would be free. It would be free. We'd be running Blackboard and Schoology together side by side as we work through the first year. And Joe, go ahead.
Sure. So, I guess one of the things that I want to be very clear on is what we are trying to do is get the technical aspect of it done and then begin to put together the professional development plan for the remainder of this school year. And one of our goals is to begin to make the Schoology platform available to staff as soon as possible so they can begin to get comfortable with it, and additional training opportunities and support materials are available not only to staff, but to parents and students as well, to begin to give them that runway. At this point, we've sought the input of a representative from every key stakeholder, department, school, user in the community. To Mrs. Rose's point, I think we could spend the next year attempting to communicate this And we would eventually find someone though at the end of that year who's like, wait, we're changing what? So part of what we're trying to do in all of this is a purposeful communications plan to make sure that that is avoided. With that, I guess the question for kind of in response to your question would be, at this point, I'm not sure I understand the benefit of kind of kicking this can down the road any further. We have sought extensive input. I shared the teacher comments back, and the longer we wait is the longer until we can begin the technical setup, the potential data integrations, begin to work through all of that aspect to then make it available to start the professional development. We can't create a sandbox environment with fake data to make it a meaningful experience for our teachers at this point. That's what we did as part of the study process, and that's what got us to this point, hearing from our study participants.
I would like to apologize to you, Mr. Binswanger, for having you come all the way back here to hear this again. We certainly have made this available to us with added documentation for reading. We had a very good presentation last week, and I'm not really willing, and I don't think a lot of other members on this board are willing to kick the can down the road, either to get a different board to make this decision in a different way, or to let our staff and teachers and community down again with this. This is the way we need to go. I really feel very strongly that Schoolology is the way we need to go, and we didn't put it on the October 4th board meeting because we need to do this now. And we asked Mr. Binswanger to return from Orlando because we need to do this now. So I think this is a bit disingenuous, and I'm really disappointed. Mrs. Ziegler.
Well, I regret those comments. I'm sorry, Mr. Binswanger, if I may ask another follow-up question. When it came to, and I know we discussed a lot of those adding on, so I thank you for your candid comments, and I appreciate that always. When it comes to the implementation, because I am very familiar with the time aspect of it. If things, and I remember us talking about as we move forward, there will be a rollout communication plan for pulling in additional stakeholders because they're more of a user experience when it comes to our families. Can you talk to me about what that looks like as far as a timeline standpoint, because that is part of the multi-phase process?
Well, and so in, I guess, fairness, what we have purposely done throughout this is not get too far down the road with any of our steps, because we did, especially as our study participants, I believe, would come up here and affirm, and I know it was in our recorded conversations and kind of all with the study participants, we did not want to impose any predetermined thoughts or anything, but we wanted the process to naturally play itself out and let participants come to their own conclusions in that. I bring all that up to say, upon this approval, is when we will sit down with Schoology representatives, our teachers, district leadership, to say, now, while the technical aspect is being set up, now let's begin to formulate the plans next to include how do we make sure that we are communicating this in the best manner way to our teachers. All of that is not formalized. I can tell you the three options that we've sort of been looking at in that regard, but none of that's been approved or presented or any of that. We're staging everything to get ready for it, but we don't want, here's the reality, other than what I'll say some very technical requirements, the IT department does not want to drive the decisions. Those decisions need to be driven by our teachers, our principals, our district leadership in terms of those steps. And so what I can tell you is the sooner that we can get started, the sooner we can get that formalized and then begin to communicate that out kind of with all that, which is partly what we talked about, to include tutorials and opportunities for parents to make sure that when next school year comes, they are also fully comfortable with it as we start the school year.
Okay, and then final question, when it comes to, I don't know if it's Schoology staff and you, but when it comes to the technical support to help eliminate when we have those transitions or glitches or what have you, because it is a multi-phase process, can you talk through that? So, because again, there was one other county that had just the most egregious LMS. It sounds like a nightmare when we kept reading it, but I don't want us to go through that path. So as we go through it, what assurances does Schoology have for us when we are working to troubleshoot or what have you? Are you confident in their support?
So what I can tell you to date is every question that we have had, they have been thorough, not only in their response, but in their continued follow-up with any of that. Honestly, I could probably call our rep right now on his cell phone and he would probably answer.
We should try it. No, I'm just joking. I'm just kidding. I'm making your drive worth it in my questions. So. Okay.
No, and let me say, I mean, so as I was just kind of thinking about this conversation today, partly what I would tell you is, so in the audience today are at least 3 of what I'll call, if you'll go with me with this analogy, the mechanics that work on our Blackboard car right now. And what they would tell you is the car's in the shop a lot, their hands are greasy a lot, and they are working a lot on it. What they've seen is this new car come into the garage and have an opportunity to kind of look under the hood, and they are beyond ecstatic about what that engine underneath the hood looks like. I don't want to be disingenuous or misrepresent to say there's still the possibility we're going to have some snags. I mean, it's technology, and you know, I'm with my counterparts across the state this week, and we joke around and say the difference between a techie and a non-techie is a non-techie is surprised when technology doesn't work. A techie's surprised when it does. You know, it's a little facetious in that regard, but understanding that there is the potential for those things. But by having this runway that we've talked about in the past, and we talked about at the ward workshop, to get this set up, it helps to mitigate that risk to a greater degree. And that's really what we're trying to do. And hence why we're trying to bring this forward to make sure that, and I'm not sure what date school starts in August of 2023, but whatever date that is, that we as a community, staff, students, parents, are all ready for that date in the best manner possible.
Mr. Edwards, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Asplin, if I may direct some of my questions to you, is this the management system that you think we need here at Sarasota County Schools?
Yes, I definitely think it is. You know, Blackboard is antiquated. It's on its way out. Matter of fact, I don't know if all this helps, but I'll say this. I thought I saw an article today that Blackboard was purchased by another company even today. So, but it is better than the other companies that we looked at by a great deal, and the teachers can explain that as well. It's also cheaper than Blackboard. It's going to cost us less money than we've been paying. So it's better, it's cheaper. And I also want to say, and I'm saying this, I'll just say this. In my other district, we went with Schoology about 6 years ago, and the transition was very smooth, and the applications worked very well as we transitioned out of Blackboard, same exact situation, into Schoology. However, I did not bring that up. I want everybody to know, I did not bring that up to Joe or anybody. I said, when you guys look for a new management system, look yourself. I did not tell them anything about, so I didn't want anybody to think that I was working for Schoology, because I'm not. And so it's a great program. It was an easy transition. It was much better than Blackboard, and it's cheaper.
Anything else, Mr. Edwards?
Yes, please. So as the superintendent, you think that this is the right system for us, and have you deliberated in your own mind that this is the right time with all of the balls that we have in the air, all of the things that need to be implemented, all of the reading programs, all of the things that we're doing? Have you deliberated in your own mind that this is the right time to make this purchase and to make this transition for our teachers? And do you think, in addition to that part of the question, do you think that it will ultimately have a benefit to our students, their test results, and the achievement gap if life is made easier for the teachers through this LMS?
Yes, you are correct, and Ms. Rose, I know you've said it and you've lived it. We have a lot of things going on right now, and I will say, we created that strategic plan, and there's a lot of pokers in the fire, and everybody in here will tell you that. These guys over here will definitely tell you that. Trying to keep it all straight, trying to move it forward, but they've done a great job with it. Our teachers have as well. So we're coming off this COVID thing, we're moving forward, we're getting a little bit more normalized, I guess you would say. And within that process, we need to have a learning management system that works with us, not against us. And I don't remember who said it over here, but when they said, hey, you know what? I was able to do 3 lessons in 10 minutes versus 1 lesson in an hour. That is huge for our teachers, especially since we are asking them to do quite a few things now with our strategic plan and moving forward with some of the training and professional development that we have for them. I think it's going to help the parents as well. It's going to be a lot easier for the parents to keep track of their students. It's going to help with parent-teacher communication, and that alone will help our students be successful at the end of the day.
Thank you, Dr. Esplin. Let me just say that I will remind the public and my fellow board members that we hire a superintendent to make these decisions. I think it's wise that board members ask good questions and do their due diligence. But the running of the school district, the choosing of those programs, and the timing would not have been presented to the board if Dr. Asplin, who, in my opinion, has done an admirable job of running the school district and getting our grades up and in building the strategic plan, and has done nothing but show great decision making. So I will be supporting this. Thank you.
Mrs. Brown.
Like I said earlier, this learning management system has the new standards in there, and they'll be updated. It makes it easier for teachers when it comes time to upload grades, all of those things. And, we've heard from the teachers that have tried it, and now from Dr. Asplin, who used it in his previous district. There's an easy transition. They want this. It's going to make their life easier. It's not going to add things to their list. I think it'll take a lot of problems off of their list, and I think we owe it to our teachers to give this to them, and I think we owe it to our taxpayers to do something that's more fiscally responsible.
Okay, without any further discussion, I'm going to call on you now for a voice vote. Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Ziegler?
Yes.
Mrs. Rose?
No.
And I vote yes. So the motion carries 4-1 with Mrs. Rose's dissent. And that takes us to the end of new business. I have a couple of announcements. The next board meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, October 4 at 6 p.m. The next work session is scheduled for Tuesday, October 11th at 9 a.m., followed by an executive session regarding safety and security. Are there any other discussions or questions? Hearing Mrs. Brown.
I just want to say there's been a lot of talk this past week over a flyer that was posted at one of our schools, at least one of our schools, for a meeting that was held regarding also youth, LGBTQ students. And, I know was it 1467, what some people call the Don't Say Gay bill. I know that a lot of people are saying it doesn't say don't say gay anywhere in the bill, but it has changed the way that we deal with these issues in our classrooms. The posters or flags have come down, and I think we're giving them, a little more consideration, saying now we've got to follow the rules. And I understand that we've got something coming out instead of saying this is a safe place for LGBT. I don't want to be spilling the beans here, but we're going to be looking at stickers that are going to say this is a safe place for all students. And whether they are, but we have to understand that we have to make sure that we aren't telling these kids who I think are having some of the very difficult problems handling adolescence and perhaps their sexuality, that we support them and that we're there for them. And that's what we want to do, and we want to put in place and make sure that we follow the rules and the policies that we have in place. But it does frustrate me a bit when we keep saying the Don't Say Gay bill doesn't say gay, when we can't even see gay in our schools anymore, and books are being taken out. And I think that we need to really think about what's in the best interest of all of our children, not just some.
Excuse me? Who's speaking?
The people behind us have been.
You're going to be asked to leave.
They're always clapping and nobody's stopping.
Excuse me.
Break your rules every meeting, every single meeting, by calling us ugly names, and you say nothing. You just let them clap. They clap and you say nothing.
I thought we were doing so well tonight.
Because you stopped us, but you didn't stop them. Unbelievable.
I just want to say that I was visiting my sister last month, and after her son died, she's taken over the care of his daughter, her granddaughter, but also the granddaughter's half-brother. He's 16, junior in high school. And when I was cleaning his room, he had a lot of these Bratz dolls in it. They're kind of strange. And we put them to the side, and I asked her, and she said, well, he used to do that with his cousins, the little girls, when they'd play. And I mean, I don't know if he's trying to recapture something he had when his family was together and now they're not. He's been rejected by both his mother and his father. But she said to him, she said, I talked to him about that. He's not sure. He's not sure if he's gay, straight, transgender. He doesn't know. But she said to him, regardless of where you fall on this, you can come to me and tell me. I will love you regardless. And I think we have to know that we have to respect our children regardless. And where I know some people don't want to have a space for children that are of LGBT. We've had people come here and read passages from the Bible that were saying these kids are evil. But we need to support children. And I think those who need the support more than anyone, we need to support them. Posters were posted, and apparently we're not supposed to post any posters and for outside groups. So we're going to follow that rule. It was held at a charter school, but the building was leased. We allow leased organizations to lease our property. That was allowed. I know there were people that were out in front protesting. I guess they were so proud of themselves protesting, but they didn't want to show their faces. They had facial coverings and hats, so we couldn't see who they were. But we need to understand these children are here in our community, they're in our schools, and we need to give them the support they deserve. whether you support their lifestyle or not, we need to support these kids. We need to do what's in the best interest of each and every one of our children in our schools. And I would hope that even after I'm gone, that we continue to remember that. And that's all I have to say on that. Thank you.
Mrs. Ziegler.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to make a comment on the same issue, and I want to make it very clear. I believe that every child and every member of staff, every member of community, I don't care what your background is, what your religious background, affiliation, what subcategory you put yourself into, every single person deserves to be respected and appreciated and cared for, and that's across the board. And I don't think that. And what's disheartening to me is the way in which following a policy that we have that is subject to all organizations, that is being responded to, does not then therefore mean that people are being intolerant or hateful to any organization or any group of people. And when that constant, alignment is pushed, then yes, of course, those human beings will feel that that's the case, and that is not the case. So I will be the first to tell every single person, part of the LGBTQIA community, I care about you as much as I care about every single other person in this community. You matter. We have rules in our district, and that is merely it. And I'm sorry that this continues to be a baited aspect where it's something that this group doesn't matter or this group does matter. That is not it. When there was a lot of questions about a religious affiliation, we would have the exact same aspect when it came to posters. And I believe in consistency. If you've followed me on this board for a long time, the consistency of policy is critical so that there is no discrimination, so that anyone else isn't uniquely alienated. I believe that every single person in this community, no matter what you identify, no matter what category you are in, or however you want to claim it, is deserving of respect and love and patience, and I will be the first to back you up no matter what, because no one should be cast as less than anyone else, period. And I want to make that very clear, because I think people look for opportunities to exploit this. But I am strong with my words, because I think it's unfortunate that there are organizations, and I will just broadly say organizations, that push the envelope. And I believe it's because they expect no one to push back, because then you'll be called every name under the book, which I have been called. But I will stand strong that I make sure that that it is even across the board, no matter what organization, because we have a very unique situation. We are a public education institution, and we serve a diverse population with diverse religious backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, and beliefs. And we need to be narrowly focused on education, which we did a great job highlighting today. And so when it comes to these issues, I do not intend, or it's not for a purpose to offend. So I hope that I can speak very clearly to anyone that is not the purpose, and I would practice this evenly across the board. And I believe the superintendent and staff would do the same, and that is the expectation. So we can go forward and focus on education, because that is a critical and very important thing that every ounce of our being should be focused on.
Dr. Asplin.
First of all, I want to say, as an educational institution, we're here to serve all students, every single one, no matter who they are. And I think our folks do a very, very good job of that, and I appreciate what they do. I remember a couple years when I came on board, it seemed very divisive. With just different things going on. And one of the things was to say, how do we bring people together? And one of those was to create the equity committee, trying to get all different people on there to talk to each other and try to bring people together. It was not to separate people. And so as we continue working together for the success, working as one for the success of all means all. We're serving all students. We're educating all students. Doesn't matter who you are. And so when you look at the safe space stickers that we are creating in the summer, our cabinet, we talked through that, and we came up with I guess it was a sticker and a banner that we'll be sending out to schools once they're completed. But they have our Sarasota County Schools logo on them, and it says Safe Space for All. and it's capitalized all, safe space for all. When we have those ready, we put those out. Anything else that's still out there will come down. The posters that were up, as far as advertising something from the outside, that has nothing to do with, I know people have said, well, it has to do with what's on the poster and, you know, you're against this group or that group, and it has nothing to do with that. We don't allow those in our schools. We have something called Peach Jar. And so any business that wants to advertise anything in our school system, we don't allow them to clutter our schools. We ask them to go on Peach Jar, which is an electronic advertisement. And then that goes out to parents so that parents can see if they want their children involved in it or not. But we don't have anything to do with that in the schools. So so I want people to know when we took the posters down this week, yeah, they shouldn't have been up to begin with because that's not how we advertise. We advertise through Peach Jar. And so I just wanted to bring both of those items up as far as clarity is concerned, and know that, you know, like I said, once we have those posters or those banners made and those stickers made, then we will put those out. And it is to have everyone recognize that our schools are safe spaces. Our district is a safe space. Safety is number one, but also the students know they can talk to the adults at the schools. And if they need to talk about anything, they will. So with that said, I just wanted to make sure I could bring clarity to that and what we're going to be doing in the near future.
So clarity.
Madam Chair.
No, I'm not calling on you yet. I have something that I'd like to add. Ken Burns has done a special on PBS. It started Sunday night about the Holocaust. And I would recommend it to you to watch. The second portion is on tonight. It's 2 hours. I think it's 3 2-hour segments. Very, very well done. But it also shows some things that could happen again if we are not careful in this democracy that we love. Mrs. Brown?
I want to clarify with you then, Dr. Asplund. So the content, I mean, as long as it's not inappropriate, if they had asked to advertise it through Peach Jar, that would have been okay.
I don't think it would. I know there's a process, and I think Craig can speak to that. But Peach Jar is designed for outside businesses to advertise. That is sent.
So would also have been allowed to advertise on Peach Jar.
Correct.
Thank you for the question. Advertising is a strong word. We don't really advertise anything in school. We help connect people with different types of...
Well, like drama kids and cheerleading after-school programs, that's what we're talking about. And I know there's Good News, which is about, I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it's...
So there's a process, and the flyers come in, and they are looked at, and they're deemed age-appropriate, first of all. So we're not going to put a flyer into an elementary school that may be showing something that's not appropriate for that age group. Then, even in Peach Jar, they're broken down by schools. And then what we do is there has to be a disclaimer on that flyer that has to be put on there. Peach Jar is a business, so they want to sell the ability to outside vendors, for-profit groups, to make money. So what we do is the ones that aren't for-profit, we will take that flyer and put up. The school wants it, and then the school then has the opportunity to say, I want to put that up or I don't.
The school puts it up on Peach Jar?
We give them the permission. It comes through, and we say, yes, this is available, and they can decide to use it or not. We don't make the school use Peach Jar. So, for instance, we have a few schools in our district who don't use Peach Jar at all because they don't want to get caught into any kind of, I'm for this and not for that, or for that and not for this. We allow the flyers that are age appropriate to go up, and then the school makes the decision on whether to populate on their school website.
When you say you allow the flyers to go up where?
On the website, on Peach Jar. Each school has their own Peach Jar account. And those flyers are distributed as they come through, they're checked out, they say, yes, this is within the guidelines. The guidelines are here. There is a disclaimer that goes on the top of that in large letters that says Sarasota County Schools has absolutely nothing to do with this.
So that's
The
basically the
parents decide
website,
on
so it'd be
themselves.
more parents accessing it?
It's only parents who access it. Well, that's not true. A child could access it if they can get on that piece chart.
Well, I would imagine maybe high schoolers would.
Right, but we don't
But it's
allow-
generally parents that are accessing it. So when you say age appropriate,
Well, no, we're not going to have a flyer that talks about something that's inappropriate for ages 3 through 5 on their website where they might be able to get to it. I'm just not going to do it. But if it's appropriate, we'll put a disclaimer on, they'll have their disclaimer on there, and then the principal can at that point even decide if he wants to put that or she wants to put that up in their peach jar folder.
And Craig, talk about what the disclaimer says.
Basically says that Sarasota County Schools has nothing to do with whatever's being done with this event. It's solely for the event people and the people who want to join up. So it could be a club. It could be the chess club. We don't have anything to do with a chess club or a drama club. We don't have anything to do with that. It's the club. And clubs are sponsored by students and then faculty. So it's not like the principal's deciding. They decide whether the flyers go up, and they have the individual right per flyer to put it up or not. Free car washes, they can put it up if they want to. They don't have to, but it'll say we have nothing to do with it. Does that help clarify how Peach Jar?
well, I just have a concern when we go, if appropriate, and then now, are we going, if a school would have put the flyer up on Peach Jar on their school site, if they would have gotten the same kind of kickback then, that we received by having it in the hall. I mean, there's a procedure, or wherever they had it, there's a procedure to put it up. And I have that concern about if appropriate. I would say maybe if the principal wants it, but I think that we need to be able to.
I can tell you that not all flyers are created equally, so they don't all go up. It's not like a pass-through, give me a flyer, it's going up. It's looked at and it's decided if, A, it meets the guidelines of what Peach Jar was meant to for our school system, and then B, the principal then has the choice if they want to even participate or put that flyer up because they think it works for their school and their community. But not every flyer just comes in and goes up. Like,
I guess there's some concern about who decides and if that flyer would have been given to the principals to then put on Peach Jar is what I'm hearing the concern. And when we say, one side is making a big issue of it, it started because another side said, you shouldn't have this and we don't need this in our schools. So, okay, we don't have it posted on a window, on a door, on a wall, but we have access, we have a procedure that these not-for-profits and I guess for-profits can do by either going through Peach Jar, or I guess we also have all kinds of businesses putting signs up at schools too. It's that if appropriate, and I would be concerned about, if we're going to be getting the same kind of pushback, okay, you didn't like the sign, now we're not going to let you put it up on Peach Jar either. I mean, that's where I'm going to have a concern if the next one that they put up on Peach Jar, we're going to get the same kind of kickback on it.
Okay. I think we've beaten that one to death. I think it's time for us to adjourn the meeting.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Tom Edwards, please speak.
Thank you. I appreciate Mrs. Brown going through that process, and for the purposes of making sure that Peach Jar would be appropriate for that flyer, I will work with Mr. Maliglia tomorrow to make sure that would have been approved and it would have gone up. Otherwise, to Mrs. Brown's point, we'll be back to square one. And here's what my issue is regarding all of this dialogue. For 2 years, whether it's in the bill or not, our students have been hearing "Don't say gay." And I will tell you that all the mental health professionals that I speak to and the educators that I speak to that interact with our LGBTQ plus students are experiencing serious issues around self-esteem. And I am bothered that every chance that someone can put something up on social media so that 500 comments can weigh in and spew forth their hate, when public comments come into the boardroom and spew forth their hate, our students hear that and they listen. And to what is being said is important that we do say, "You matter, we see you, we care for you, and we care for all students equally." And every chance that someone has a chance to put up on social media to create and stoke hatred is not useful to our students and their self-esteem, whether they be Black, brown, LGBTQ plus, all of the protected classes that we have in our school district that we care for equally. And I really wish that everybody would bear in mind before they go up and start their hate or their comments on social media and in the public boardroom that they care about children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Mrs. Ziegler.
I just have 2 closing comments. I think it is important to highlight the name of Don't Say Gay has been tagline from Equality Florida. And that is why the repetition of it continues. And I do fear and feel bad for our students because it is not at all an accurate statement and it has caused so much more pain that was unnecessary. Finally, I agree when it comes to hatred and those comments. I'm sorry.
Please. Please. Quiet in the audience.
Sorry. I just wanted to finalize and say that I think it, again, I repeat the statements I made before, and I believe in following consistency. And as was mentioned with Peach Jar, I think we need to dive in and understand it very clearly because I don't want it to be tilted on one side or the other. When you think about a special event, I don't know, does our staff have the bandwidth to look at what is entailed in any kind of special event? If it's a business and a service, it's a different story. So I do think that warrants an additional conversation because I want to be clear, I do not want one side or one group or one not group to be afforded any kind of special treatment or not. I want it to be equal across the board. And so that it does not keep us away from our mission of the education piece. And unfortunately, we are at a time where certain things are just more polarized. And so it may be very hard to find that common ground. And if it's going to take us too much time, then the juice isn't worth the squeeze at that point. And I think that, but as long as we're able to apply it equally, that to me is one of the most important parts. And I will finalize with, I did post something on social media because I was getting a lot of questions about it and I wanted to provide an update. I had no idea I would have that many comments, but I will make it very clear if you go on there and you look at the comments, I will promise you the vitriol and very horrible language really started to come a little bit later. And you know what, listen, you want to say it, I opened up, I say as a public official, I understand, I walk into that, but let's be very reflective on the tolerance that we claim that we need. We can solve problems without using name calling. I agree with Mr. Edwards. I don't participate that, and I hope that no one today in these chambers will participate that on either side or issue. That's never appropriate. And I will conclude my statement. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we are finished with comments, and I'm going to wrap the gavel. We're adjourned, and now we'll continue with our hearing of citizens of a general nature. And I have 18 cards to go through that. I'm going to call 2 people forward, 1 to be in a queue, 1 to be at the podium, and 1 to be in a queue. The first 2 are Barbara Vaughn and Susan Owens.
My name is Barbara Vaughn, as you well know, and I come to this podium for the same purpose I always come to this podium. And tonight it's more important than it has been in my recent memory. Father God, we thank you. We give you thanks and we give you praise for the many good gifts you shower upon us. We thank you, Lord, that we live in the state of Florida, the free state of Florida. We thank you that Governor Ron DeSantis is our governor. And Lord, we thank you for the community of Sarasota County. We thank you for this school board. We thank you for the men and women, the youngsters, everyone who comes to these meetings and sits for hours, agrees or disagrees, but Lord, we come. We come because we care about our children. We care about all of our children. Lord, we ask you to turn the hearts of everyone here, guard their mouths, so that what comes out of it is not vitriolic, is not evil. None of us mean that, Lord. We just let our emotions get the best of us sometimes. So we ask you, Lord, to be with us for the duration of this time together. Help us to be understanding and accepting of everyone here and everyone in this county. Lord, again, we give you thanks and praise. We are grateful for this time together. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Next up behind Susan will be Melissa Picondi.
Good evening. Susan Owens, 1901 Mossy Oak, Northport. I have taught school for 41 years. I taught 25 years in Sarasota County. I've always worked with at-risk youth. So tonight I'm going to propose 3 things. They aren't going to fit into your plan, but just keep them in the back of your mind, and someday, maybe, someone will really, really approach the problem of our bottom quartile. The first thing I would like to see us do is add another year at the beginning of school. These kids will not graduate if they do not learn to read in first grade. First grade is the key. 83% of students who don't read well at the end of first grade don't read well at 4th grade. So what I would like to see is a pre-K and a K made up of fun. The old kindergarten, games and fun. And then that pre-first, you would start instruction. I believe you must have a mental age of 6 for reading instruction to really be profitable. So that way you could start reading instruction in that pre-first and then continue in first. And they wouldn't fail first grade. It's a horrible thing to fail first grade. 65-year-old men still say, oh man, I failed first grade. The second thing that I would like to see is if you could require algebra not for those students who are not going to college. I have had my student teachers run across campus and say, oh, Miss Owens, I can't graduate this spring. I can't pass algebra. What we need to do with those children, we know who they are. We need to go back to general math. So
Thank you.
Our cashiers
Thank you.
can tell.
Thank you. Up next is Melissa Bacandi, followed by Michelle Posey.
Dr. Asplin, will you stop playing politics and start being a leader? You have lied twice over the past 2 board meetings. In your Emmy-winning performance, you told the taxpayers of this county that the schools are open. That was a huge lie. You knew full well that principals were and are not allowing parents to directly walk their children into classrooms each morning. Why would you lie? Is your ability to afford that waterfront condo so important that you would lie to the public and sacrifice the young children of our district at the altar of the bullies in the teachers union? You say that you care about children, but apparently you do not. When parents walk their kids into the classroom each day, it builds rapport between parents and teachers and strengthens community. Don't say it can't be done, because we've done it for years at Tatum. No problems, only benefits. And no, Shirley, parents are not asking for a conference before school. And no, Jane, we are not attempting to disrupt the morning routine. We're actually just exercising our rights as parents to see what is going on in the classroom and to be able to see where our children will be for the next 6+ hours. But my fellow taxpayers, here's the real reason Dr. Asplin won't allow parents to walk their kids into the classroom. Just last week, K-3 age children were dropped off in Carline at Laurel Nokomis by trusting parents who had no idea that some woke teacher hung a flyer on her classroom door promoting the LGBTQ grooming event called QueerCon. Dr. Asplin, Tom Edwards, and their anti-parent cartel don't want you to see how teachers are violating state law by sexualizing your children. Who knows the number of children that saw that poster hanging in that teacher's classroom and are now more likely to sign up for permanent genital mutilation because their teacher affirmed them at school. But Dr. Asplin doesn't care as long as he can sip his coffee on that waterfront condo balcony. Dr. Asplin, be a real leader and make an executive order immediately allowing all parents in every school to walk their children into the classroom each and every day. What are you afraid of? I know the Bay Haven principal was sitting here. I don't even think on the first day of school he was allowing children to be walked into their classrooms. And Mr. Edwards, instead of violating the law by spending time at QueerCon grooming young children, perhaps you should spend time working on the ethics complaint that was filed against you.
Thank you.
Hang on. Ms. Bacandi, I do want to just clarify something for you. First of all, as soon as I found out about the poster, we did remove it. So just so you know, because I know you like to spread different information. But also, I know this is probably the 4th or 5th time you talked about my condo, and maybe I should have run where I'm going to live by you when I first got here. And then you could approve it for me. Thank you very much.
Michelle Posey, District 3, that was probably the most unprofessional I've ever seen you, but that's okay. You know, where is the heterosexual club? Because if somebody put a flyer about heterosexual club, you know what I would do? I would say that's disgusting. These are minors. They don't deserve to be sexualized. So it's not an LGBTQ thing. It's a sexualization of minors thing. That should make everybody's skin crawl. The flyers were ridiculous because they have nothing to do with education. Jane, you mentioned the Holocaust and not letting history repeat itself as if we're going to extinguish a whole part of our community. You know, it wasn't that long ago that you claimed and showed with your actions that the unvaxxed and the unmasked were expendable to you. So climb off of your soapbox. Mr. Edwards, resign immediately. I believe you have violated Florida law, which requires the district and schools to establish and implement various protocols consistent with the Bill of Rights.
Consider that a warning, Ms.
I believe
Posey.
Mr. Edwards is in breach of his fiduciary responsibilities as a board member when he cost this district an additional $136,000 for his illegal mask mandate. I also believe he's in violation of Article 2, Section 8G in the Florida Constitution that states there is a code of law, a code of ethics for all state employees and non-judicial officers prohibiting conflict between public duty and private interest. No, he encourages people to break House Bill 1557. He goes behind the governor's back to fly under the radar to work within a school system undetected for his own pleasure and for his own sick agenda. Resign immediately, Mr. Edwards.
Mackenzie Valenza, followed by Kia Brand.
School Board, hello. My name is Mackenzie Valenza. On a completely different note, I'm a 9th grader at Riverview High School. I'm a tall, thin, athletic girl. I've always had an issue with fitting into clothing, regardless of the item and the one size fits all. I'm going to discuss the dress code today. I've always had an issue with items fitting properly. My pants are always too short or they never fit around the waist. It's unfair that one shirt looks different on me when it would look different on 6 other girls. Why are we dress coding students for one particular part of their body when another person's body isn't the same? I don't feel like the one size fits all mentality that our dress code currently has benefits the majority of the student population. For example, this outfit, my midriff is not showing. My midriff is not showing. My chest is majoritively covered. However, both articles of clothing would technically go against dress code. Due to the pant length has to be mid-thigh. Not everybody's mid-thigh is the same. For somebody who's 5'1" versus somebody who's 5'9", a skirt that has the same sizing is going to look very different on them depending on their body types. That's it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kaya Brand. I live in Sarasota County, and I've attended Sarasota County schools K through 12, and I have a daughter that's in 6th grade and has attended since kindergarten. On Sunday, Sarasota County government had a Facebook page, or had a Facebook post from their library reading about reading is empowering, and it was in celebration of Banned Book Week, an annual event that has been in effect since 1982. Even though this post was to highlight our county public libraries and the many events and programs that they provide, within the comments it turned into our school libraries. There were comments about books that are in our school libraries and parents and others commenting about removing books from our school libraries because of explicit materials. Our county doesn't have a policy set yet, and already some are getting lists ready to challenge and want removed. Our county has not started this process yet, but it seems likely we will join in our other counties in our state that have banned books in their schools. Pet America reports in the last year there have been 566 book bans spread over 21 of Florida's school districts. This is from organized and coordinated groups like Moms for Liberty. Parental rights is not deciding what books all students have available in school libraries. Our school libraries are under attack. Thank you.
Eric Cox, followed by Tallulah Brand.
Hello. I'd like to start off with definition of defamation. The act of communicating false statements about a person that injure the reputation of that person, so that we're clear. So a few months ago, I spoke and brought up an issue with Tom Edwards. My microphone was promptly shut off, and I was told I could not attack a board member by name and could not defame a member. Well, at the last board meeting, a mother named Paulina Testerman verbally attacked and defamed member Karen Rice. Miss Rice is guilty of nothing more than attending an event at a venue that just so happened to be attended by conservative supporters, including the Proud Boys. She has not asked for the support. Candidates can't pick who support them, but can someone clarify what the political groups have done wrong, especially locally? Conservatives and Republicans didn't burn a black-owned business sports bar in Minneapolis. Conservatives didn't kill a retired black police officer that was trying to protect his friend's pawn shop. Conservatives didn't burn Kenosha, Wisconsin. But we sit here and listen to people like Ms. Testerman tell us how bad conservatives and Republicans are for trying to protect our children from those who wish to prey and brainwash them. What I'm going to read now is something Ms. Testerman posted on Sarasota Watchdog's Facebook page. For your info, Andy, I've got a son in 9th grade. We have a pretty open dialogue. He's had 4 girlfriends since 7th grade. Guess how many of those girlfriends dates my son with their parents' knowledge? 1. 3 dated my son without their parents' knowledge because their dad won't let them date. Surprising, 7th graders. I knew 1 was sexually active with my son. I had to explain sex to her and explain consent. For your info, not educating your kids, somebody else is. So this woman thinks it's okay to educate somebody else's 7th grade child. It has nothing to do with sexuality or gender. Don't teach somebody else's child sexuality. It's pretty friggin' simple. Has nothing to do with gender or homosexuality, okay? Let me conclude by saying this. If 9 people sit at a table with a sexual predator and do...
Thank you. Angela Hollister, followed by Lois Wilkins.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tallulah Brand. I go to Booker Middle School. I just wanted to mention Moms for Liberty and Moms for Libraries. They're coming up with ridiculous ways to try to get a book banned. I can guarantee that if you asked one of them what page or what paragraph the reason they're trying to get the book banned was on, they'd have no idea. And one more quick thing. There is a website that exists that you can go on where you can check off books you don't want your child to be able to check out. It's a privilege for us to be able to read and have books, so we should embrace it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Angela Hollister. I'm a product of the Sarasota County school system, and I'm proud to say that my children are as well. I want to preface this with saying that I have been more than pleased with my children's education just thus far. They have some amazing teachers and administrators, and I really want to commend them. I am, however, concerned by the recent pushes that I believe will limit the quality of my children's education. I implore you to stay the course with your current measures for conflict resolution, being to begin with the specific teacher and lessons rather than petitioning for an instructional materials overhaul. Listening to the sheer rhetoric from last meeting has me greatly concerned. I truly hope that we can keep this civilized and apolitical as much as possible. I want to thank the board members that have replied to my concerns, and I'm disappointed with those that don't. I just want to end this with saying to all students out there, you matter. Thank you.
Paulina Testerman, followed by Angela Wynn.
Good evening. I spent about 3 hours writing my speech today, and it's hard to focus on that speech because so much has happened. Disappointed that the whole board's not here. I'm shocked that Ms. Ziegler is no longer with us. I'd like to discuss this specific thing that Dr. Aspman discussed, which is safe space. And to say that we have a safe space in Sarasota County Schools is disingenuous, because that safe space does not extend to transgender students. So to say that we have equal space for all students is not true, because if a transgender student comes and speaks to a teacher and says that they identify as transgender, they are no longer safe and protected. So it's important that you can keep repeating it over and over again, but that's not the truth. And it's important to say things that are true. As for the paper flyers, I personally contacted Peach Jar myself today because I wanted to understand what the rules are. I'm a rule follower. If you can provide rules, we'd be happy to follow them. But Peach Jar is not the problem. Peach Jar just disseminates the information. The county is the one who approves these flyers. If you are unhappy with these flyers, we would like transparency on what it is that is allowed and not allowed on flyers to be sent home. Black and white answers so our community is aware of what is at stake. Section 9.40 of the Sarasota County Schools advertising commercial activities, quote, "The following are exceptions and may not be false, misleading, or deceptive related to illegal activity or discriminatory behavior." Discriminatory behavior. I certainly hope the school board isn't allowing literature to be sent home from clubs like the Good News Club, a private Christian organization, and refusing to allow clubs like Also Youth from advertising, as they would certainly be considered discriminatory practices. And it goes against our district's policy and procedures. SOS may even feel that it's important to file a grievance against school board members who discriminate. In the same guidelines, I read that the school board officials may, quote, "cooperate in furthering the work of any not-for-profit community-wide social service agency." That is what Also Youth is.
Hi there, my name is Angela Wynn. I am a mom and a co-founder of Support Our Schools. SOS is committed to educating the community about the threats facing public education. Quality public education is a right, not a privilege. No child should have to change who they are to have that right. With the passage of bills like the Don't Say Gay Bill and the Stop Woke Act, the powers that be are creating division within our communities. We have extremist puppets pervading our county while a traitor and convicted criminal pulls their strings. These domestic terrorists, the Proud Boys, stormed our Capitol in the insurrection that left 7 people dead, and they are intentionally intimidating our children. How can LGBTQ students feel safe when they have an event and violent extremists show up? Intimidating children are the actions of insecure bullies, not mature adults. These bullies are trying to wreak havoc and create fear in anyone who doesn't subscribe to their radical beliefs. They are trying to distract us, and why is that? What is their end game? It's to privatize education. They want to control what our children are learning. They are actively trying to dismantle public education while we fight a war fabricated by despotic politicians. Why do you think they want to dismantle and control public education? Maybe it's because education is the foundation of democracy. Dismantle it, and you get a nation that is being taught what to think and how to act. I was born and raised in Sarasota, and I love it here, and I refuse to let hate and prejudice overtake it. I will continue to stand up to these bullies masquerading as patriots. I won't sit idly by as they try to control education. I will continue to fight for the rights of every student, and there are flyers that go up. I will defend democracy and public education and continue to educate the community about the threats facing education. I hope everyone watching and everyone sitting here will commit to do the same. Thanks.
Rebecca McConnell, followed by Kristen Cozy.
Hello. I'm also disappointed to see that one of the school board members left. Regardless, I want to let you know that I picked my daughter up from detention today, not because she was disruptive in class, not because she was doing drugs, not because there's an issue with her grades or that she was disrespectful, but simply because of her hemline. She's 5'10", and she has a longer inseam than her father that is 6'6". I cannot believe I'm still talking about this in 2022. We've put together a presentation because this is not an issue that is specific to my daughter. It is a district-wide issue, and we will be emailing each and every board member. To keep it brief for tonight's presentation, however, we want to note a couple of highlights, including this dress code disproportionately affects our female students and the taller students. On the county's website, there's an infographic showing 12 things girls cannot wear and 5 things that boys cannot wear. I've also included in the presentation 22 different pictures of violations to the current policy posted on the Venice High School Facebook page alone. Additionally, I've included 39 comments from parents across the county talking about their daughter's violations with hot words such as, "My daughter's embarrassed, she's ashamed, she's been humiliated, she is afraid to wear anything but pants to school. In 100-degree heat, our children are afraid to wear anything but pants to school." Excuse me, our female children. That includes the girls that are in the elementary school and the middle school, and I know this because I also have a child in the middle school. In addition, in the presentation, we've included links to 7 different scholarly articles, as well as peer-reviewed studies showing the disproportionate negative effect that these types of dress codes have on our girls. We've also included a link to a petition that has over 2,000 signatures from our county of people that are against this dress code, which I've been informed that the board has not been made aware of.
Thank you. Next up will be Lisa Shore and Teresa DeWitt. Go ahead.
Good evening, I'm Kristen Cozy, and I wanted to piggyback off of her on some things with the dress code. First of all, you have some wonderful teachers, but I think some of the teachers are taking the dress code way too far with embarrassing our children. Comments that have been made, comments that were made even last year to 5th graders, kids going home crying because they can hear a teacher talking about, oh, they finally learned the rule. My child was told it's a boys' issue. You're a distraction to the boys. In 5th grade, we are in Florida, it is hot. Every kid is different in height, length, and what they wear. We are not saying we want the midriff. We are not saying we want the booty shorts, but there is a 5-inch seam that these kids can wear. My daughter got carded today, and I told her not to wear those shorts just because I know what the teachers are saying. I had her even bend over and took a picture. You cannot see her butt whatsoever. They are long enough. Teacher stopped her, and the teacher's shorts dress was too short. Why isn't she carded? Why isn't she being humiliated in front of the other students and teachers? This is something new within the last year, and we need to really look at this again. I have raised 6 kids in 3 states, and never have I seen this before like this, with our kids being humiliated, and it's all focused on the girls. Our cheerleaders, they can't wear their uniforms. It's against your code. The dancers that were out here, against your code. They can't wear those uniforms, but they're wearing them. So why can't our girls wear what they want? You're taking away their individualized, and that's all I've heard tonight is our kids individualized. You are taking away from other learning issues, and you're taking away from things that really matter in the school system. There's kids that are dying for help, and we're worried about what they're wearing.
Thank you. My name is Lisa Shuren. I'm here today as a member of Support Our Schools, an organization dedicated to educating the public about the risks of privatization of our public schools and urging the public to advocate on behalf of the schools. For the last year or so, extremists, including politicians, oligarch-funded groups like Moms for Liberty, PDE, and the Heritage Foundation, as well as various hate and domestic terrorist groups such as the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers, have attempted to ignite a battle using culture war issues. These issues are being used by these extremists and politicians, especially here in Sarasota County, which has become the epicenter for extremism as a distraction from the real issue, which is the privatization of public education. While my preferred school candidates may not have won the recent election, I respect the results of the election and want to work with the district to continuously improve the public education available to our children. Neither I nor Support Our Schools will be hiring 3 buses to take folks to the Supervisor of Elections office in an attempt to overturn the election results. We don't believe in the big lie on a local level or on a national level. Moving on to current events, did you know that Banned Books Week is celebrated September 18th through the 24th? In honor of Banned Books Week, I would have liked to donate one of my favorite books, The Diary of Anne Frank, to one of our school media centers. A few months ago, I donated Ruby Bridges' biography. I can't donate either of these books because they're on certain banned books list. I fear that this could subject the district to further lawsuits from people like Robert Kraft, a lawsuit which he spectacularly lost. For those of you worried about huge legal fees, and it's a shame Ms. Posey's gone, how many tens of thousands of dollars in fees did that suit cost the district? Not to mention the frivolous appeal that he's promised. Same thing with the Don't Say Gay law. You're really not so worried about the legal fees after all. Thank you.
All right, so I would like to get back to curriculum, actually, finally. I just wanted to give an update on the SCL programming. Dr. Asplund, parents are still saying they cannot obtain an opt-out form from your last board meeting. I confirmed you did receive my red folder, which contained 3 items I wanted to obtain. I did see Character Strong is on the website, so where's the opt-out form that breaks it down by lesson so parents can opt out and teachers can plan to have an alternative area? Also, Dr. Asplund, you have assured the board members our children are not being surveyed by any means with this program. How did you and your team determine that Character Strong was a benefit to the district? How are you going to send me and other stakeholders the raw data collected from the 8 elementary schools in the pilot parents weren't aware of? I wanted to address the difference in evidence-based and peer-review accreditation. Evidence-based means you collect information and you put it through an internal process. Peer-reviewed means the programming or research has been circulated among experts and determined to be valid and can be published in journals. It can stand the test of time. Is the board aware Castle cannot obtain this level of excellence? The reason why, Panorama admits it continues to collect data from hundreds and thousands of students, but the questions change, the collection of data changes. I wonder why none of our school staff, school counselors, mental health professionals, school psychologists have come to speak to us here. This weekend I realized why. Dr. Asplin, do you know on September 8th, Castle developed a misinformation coalition. Who has partnered with this? The American Superintendents Association, the Board of School Counselors Association, the Elementary Principals Association, the National School Psychologists Association. What and who are they joining to go against? Parents who see the destructive nature of this programming. Dr. Asplin, don't stakeholders pay your ASAA membership? Are you attending the webinar on October 13th? A word of caution. Wyoming removed Castle from their entire state. Missouri has just issued 7 subpoenas to 7 school districts for surveys that were not approved by parents through Castle. Thank you.
Thank you. And up next, Carol Lerner, followed by Beth Altier.
Good evening. I'm going to deviate a bit from what I was going to say, just based on the discussion tonight. I mean, attacks on SEL, book bans, attacks on LGBTQ students. Welcome to Sarasota. This is really sad. I also like to elaborate on what Jane Goodwin said tonight. I think it's critically important that we do not repeat history. I have studied history. I particularly got interested in what happened in Nazi Germany, what happened in Italy, what happened in Chile when fascist regimes took over. I don't know if people know this, but the first thing they did was to attack education. One of the first things they did was to ban books. Then they instituted what they called a patriotic curriculum. Does that sound familiar? Then they attacked teachers, firing those that didn't give the line. They attacked marginalized students. I mean, we all know what happened in Germany, but that same process happened to anyone marginalized, including to anyone that had any tendency toward LGBTQ. Is that what we want? Is that what our town wants? I mean, I love this place. I moved here after looking at all sorts of places. And I chose Sarasota because I really did think it was a very tolerant community. I taught in various very good school systems, most of my time in New Jersey. And my children attended really excellent systems. But I actually found this school system better. So I really want to see things change here and let's unite.
Hi, my name is Beth Altier. This is my first meeting that I've attended, so I'm a little nervous, but I came here with some very strong feelings that most of the people in the back row didn't agree with me. They're gone, so that's okay. I started looking on the website, on the Sarasota County School website, to learn more about the parental rights and education bill that has now made into law. It scares me, and so I wanted to educate myself. So I went on the Sarasota County Schools website, and I took a screenshot because under Student Services, where it says Gender Diverse Guidelines, under revision. Okay, I don't know what that means. I'm hearing a lot tonight that our children all are safe in the school. I get that. But if there's going to be new language under gender diverse guidelines, then do we have to change the educational equity policy that's in the school board governance and organization, chapter 2.0, that includes, and it says, all backgrounds, all, and I'm going to lose my spot, sex, gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, religion, spiritual. Do we have to change all that language now too? Can we just teach our kids? I truly believe that all educators from all backgrounds and all diversities and all, whatever color you are, under the rainbow, your best intentions are for our children.
Thank you. And that ends our last hearing of citizens, and we are now leaving for the evening. Thank you all for being here. Have a nice evening.
Madam Chair, I just want to know if we're going to be talking about the dress code maybe at a future workshop or something, because we've had it a few times.
I would like to do that, yes.